Morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our first meeting of January 2023. It's going to be an amazing year. I'm feeling very confident about that. Very excited to see that the room is full and everybody's eager to get to work. So with that, I will call the meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. sharp. And I would like to start with the land acknowledgement. I have it here this morning. We acknowledge that we are gathered on Treaty 6 lands, a part of the traditional territories of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Alberta. The town of Drayton Valley is grateful for the knowledge keepers and elders and the stories and teachings that they share of these lands and its people. I will now ask everyone to stand for the singing of our national anthem, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command. Cattle bicycle, this world stand on. Yeah, please stand on. Stand on.
Beautiful, Nathan. I thought maybe we would have a new anthem this year. It seems like we switch it up every year, so. Something new, something fresh. So are there any additions to the agenda this morning?
Administration has no additions today.
Okay. Is there a member of council that would like to adopt the agenda as presented?
Sorry, Nancy, I would.
Did you have an addition?
Yes,
Councillor
please.
Kamana, sure.
Yeah, just a rural renewal stream, maybe on a closed session would be nice if we're going to talk about some names and businesses. Rural renewal stream.
Okay, so the rural renewal stream. And you want to talk about that in closed?
Would be nice, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So do I need to include that as an addition to the agenda, or is that just an item then enclosed?
We should add it to the agenda as a closed item.
As a closed item, okay, and then we'll have a separate section for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a member of council that would like to adopt the agenda with the addition of rural renewal stream in a closed session? Councillor Sheriff, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. Are there any corrections or amendments to the December 7th, 2022 regular meeting of council minutes? Look good. Is there a member of council that would like to adopt those, please? Councillor Evans, thank you for that. All in favor? That is carried. We have no proclamations today. We do have one public hearing, which is a non-statutory public hearing for the January 11th, and this is for a discretionary use. Just pull this up. Good morning, Jarek. So I will declare our public hearing opened at 9:05 a.m. this morning for a development permit application DV 22-062. Those present today for the public hearing are myself, administration, council, members of the community, as well as members online. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comment, concern, and questions from the public regarding the proposed discretionary use of an automotive sales and service location to conduct business at 5442 55th Street. The map is up there. Administration has received a development permit to allow for an automotive sales and service business to operate at this address, 5442 55th Street. The property is zoned C-Gen, which is Commercial General District, where automotive sales and services is considered a discretionary use. Discretionary uses must be decided by Town Council acting as the MPC per Land Use Bylaw Section 1.13C. A decision on this application may be made today depending upon the comments received at the public hearing. Notification of this application, requesting comments from the public and advising them of the public hearing have been provided in accordance with the Town of Drayton Valley's Bylaw 2018-07A, which is our electronic advertising bylaw. This is to facilitate the public hearing process. Any comments received, written or verbal, will be presented as a package at the time of the public hearing today. I will now call for any comments from administration. Good morning.
Thank you, and good morning, Your Worship and fellow council members. Pertaining to today's discretionary use permit request to open an automotive repair and customization shop at 5442 55th Street in a C-Gen commercial general zone, administration received no comments back from the general public, neither in support nor opposition. A letter from the applicant to the decision body was received and included as an attachment to the public hearing package. Administration's comments will be delivered as part of the subsequent decision item pertaining to this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I will now call for any comments from the floor. Okay, I will call for comments from anyone online. Comments from anyone online? I will declare the public hearing closed at 9:08 a.m. And we do have two delegations this morning. I'm not sure if either one is here or we want it to move into our decision item 9.1 already. Okay, so we do have Jessica online. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll move into our delegation item 7.2, which is our food cycler science. We have a Miss Jessica Taylor online. Good morning, Jessica Taylor. Can you hear me?
Morning. Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, welcome to our first council meeting of the year, and we're looking forward to an update on our food cycler and science and our program with you. So everybody is here, all council members are here and our administration team, and we have members from the Free Press. So if you want to just kick it off, and we can ask questions either as we go along or at the end of your presentation this morning.
Sounds great. Thank you. Let me just get my system here. Okay, sorry, it's just not letting me share here with WebEx.
Oh, no worries. We can see the, I guess it would be the start of the first page of the program and the presentation. Is that correct, Nathan? Or is that ours? Oh, that's what we have. It says
Okay.
Food Cycler On-Site Organics Diversion Program. Are you trying to share something else with us?
I am. Is that, oh, it looks like I have to quit and reopen. Sorry about that.
That's okay, no
If
worries.
you want to move on to another item and I can jump back in, whatever you prefer.
Will it just take you a minute or?
Yep, it'll just take 2 seconds.
Yeah, we'll just wait for you. No worries at all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, can you see my presentation and hear me now?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your patience. All right, so good morning, Mayor and members of Council and staff. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Jessica Taylor, and I'm the Municipal Program Manager at Food Cycle Science. I'm excited to be here today to present the results of the Food Cycler pilot program for the town of Drayton Valley. So before we take a look at the results, I'd like to give you just a short recap of our company. So we are a Canadian company based out of Ottawa that is 100% focused on providing food waste diversion solutions using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. 2022 was a really big year for us as we were selected as finalists in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. And I'd like to acknowledge that your town's Food Cycler program was made possible in part due to the federal funding from this program. As a company, we're proud to say that as of today, the Food Cycler is the trusted food waste solution for 44 municipal partners across Canada. When Drayton Valley signed on to the program, you were the 31st to pilot this solution, and we want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial this innovative solution to the long-standing problem that is food waste. So just as a recap of the program, with the support from Impact Canada, a pilot program was run in Drayton Valley that included 100 participating households. The net cost to the municipality was $10,000 plus shipping and HST. And this program ran from April to June of 2022. Over this 12-week period, we asked your residents to track their usage, how many times per week they use the Food Cycler. And this allows us to calculate total waste diversion over the pilot period. We also asked participants to complete a survey to provide data and feedback, which is what we'll go through today. So out of the 100 participating households, we received responses from 84, which is a really great response rate. We asked them how important greenhouse gas reduction was to residents, and the average answer was 7.9 out of 10. And when we asked how important waste reduction was to them, the average answer was 8.8 out of 10. So these first two questions allow the municipality to get a sense of how important reducing greenhouse gases and reducing waste is to the residents. When we asked where their food waste went prior to using the Food Cycler, the vast majority of residents answered that at least some of their food waste was going into the garbage. A small number of residents said that they do compost, but about half of them only did so during non-winter months. For the people who do not compost at home, a large amount of them choose not to because of the work involved and the space needed to do so. Residents also reported concerns about odors and a general lack of knowledge on how to compost. These answers are in line with a lot of the data we've collected across our municipal programs. And the Food Cycler is a really great solution for these problems as it's easy to use, doesn't require outdoor space, and is odor-free. So as I mentioned, we asked residents to track their usage over the 12 weeks. On average, residents were running 3.65 cycles per week. So this works out to the equivalent of 189 kilograms of food waste generated per year per household. This works out to 14.5 metric tons of food waste diverted from the landfill per year, with only the 100 Food Cyclers that are already being used in your community. And this is the equivalent to preventing about 18.9 metric tons of CO2 equivalents per year if that food waste is being processed in the Food Cycler as opposed to going to the landfill. While we can get quantitative data from the survey, like those that I just presented to you, we also ask questions to get valuable qualitative data as well. So when we asked users if increased awareness of food waste motivated them to waste less food, the overwhelming majority said yes, it did. When people are managing their food waste at home, they become more aware of how much they're producing in the first place. We always say the most effective waste diversion strategy is not to generate any in the first place. So the awareness that comes with this program is very important. Even though it can be difficult to put that into numbers, it is an added value that this solution provides. When asked about their waste generation during the pilot, 82% of people reported a noticeable reduction, with 33% reporting 2 or more bags per month. These numbers clearly show that the pilot program is helping residents reduce their waste, which means less is going into the landfill and less greenhouse gases are being emitted. When asked about electricity costs during the pilot, only 7% reported seeing an increase. 56% of residents reported that they were unsure, which typically indicates that any increased electricity costs are negligible to them. When asked if the municipality were to offer a Food Cycler program at low or no cost, 74% of residents indicated that they think their friends and neighbors would participate. 23% were unsure if their friends and neighbors would participate. However, when we asked if they would recommend the food cycler to others, an overwhelming 90% would recommend it based on their own experience. So despite some uncertainty in the last question, the vast majority would still recommend the food cyclers to others and be champions for the program in their community. When asked if the food cycler was large enough for the quantity of daily food waste they generated, 49% of residents said yes. 51% reported they wished it was bigger. This is probably our most common piece of feedback we receive, and we have 2 recommendations for this. The first is purchasing a second bucket, which effectively doubles the capacity and keeps things clean while you're, cooking and have a cycle running at the same time. And the second is to consider our new model, which is now available to municipalities, which has a 5-liter capacity, so it's double the size, and we can provide more information on our new model if you're interested. So this slide is pretty self-explanatory, and it speaks to the success of this pilot program. 99% of participants will continue using the food cycler as a solution to their food waste moving forward. This level of participation far exceeds any other organic waste management solutions out there today. For example, the Green Bin program here in Ottawa that has weekly curbside pickup only has a 57% participation rate. When you look at backyard composting, which is technically available to everybody who has the space to use it and the desire to do it, the rate of adoption has been stagnant for decades, and based on the results that we just looked at, is quite low in Drayton Valley. This 99% participation rate in this pilot program is very encouraging and speaks to the willingness of residents to adopt this program. Overall, residents rated this pilot program 4.52 stars out of 5, with 60% of residents giving it the full 5 stars. To understand the willingness of residents to pay out of pocket, we asked if they would consider purchasing a food cycler if a municipal program was not available. 93% of residents indicated that they are willing to pay some amount to be a part of the solution. The data show that the $150 cost for the resident that was implemented in this pilot program was effective and seems to be the highest most residents would pay to have a food cycler in their home. Only 7% indicated that they would not be willing to contribute financially. So in the survey, we asked for written feedback as well. While there were many to choose from, we'd like to be transparent and start with a sample of some of the more constructive and helpful comments that we can learn from. So a few examples, food waste is a big part of our environment and climate change. I do feel that the government should make some serious change to composting all over the world. I had not heard of this unit before the town of Drayton Valley had this program. Giving away units at zero cost will not get people to use it. Having a monetary value added will ensure the units are treated properly and are actually used. Overall, I think it was a great program to introduce. I only hope more people will find interest in participating in reducing our waste. If I could change one thing about the food cycler, I would choose a larger bin and have a second one as well. So that speaks to some of the data that we already looked at. The food cycler machine was okay. However, it takes up too much room on the counter. And this is a common misconception. We ourselves call it a countertop appliance, but I don't keep mine on the counter. It is a little big if you don't have a lot of counter space, but it can be stored anywhere in the house that, is above zero, somewhere heated. So you could keep it in your laundry room, in the basement, in a heated garage, and then just keep the bucket under the sink so it's close when you're prepping food. And that comes back to just some education materials that we're working on improving for our programs as well, just letting people know that they do have that flexibility. And lastly, enjoyed the program, but I'm sorry to learn there's no nutrient value to the end product of the cycle other than bulk for composting. Again, this is a misconception. The byproduct doesn't have the same microbial qualities as traditional compost. It is scientifically proven to be beneficial and rich in important nutrients for vegetable growth or vegetation growth, doesn't have to be vegetables. And we do have lab analyses of our soil amendment that can back that up. So the samples we've chosen on this slide reflect a lot of the common positive threads seen throughout the survey responses. So I will continue to use this machine past the pilot program. I've been able to use the compost in the garden and reduce the amount of garbage produced. It was simple, it was stress-free, and a very easy transition. It was a great investment, kept a few pounds of garbage out of the landfill. After using the unit, I could not believe how much waste went into the garbage. I also own a restaurant business in town and having access to something like this on a commercial scale would be fantastic. We do have a whole separate commercial department where we can put commercial scale food cyclers in restaurants, in retirement homes. So that's another option that can be discussed as well. And I really enjoyed using this machine. Thank you for the opportunity. And again, that was really the thread that went through a lot of the comments. Many people expressed gratitude to the municipality for giving them the opportunity to participate in this program and felt that it was very worthwhile. So just to do a really quick recap of your pilot program, so 14.5 metric tons of food waste would be diverted from the landfill per year with just the 100 food cyclers that are already operating in your community. 82% of participants reported a noticeable reduction in waste generated, and 99% of participants will continue to use the food cycler. So we're here now to discuss some next steps and just present a few to you. So we can discuss an expanded pilot program. We can discuss designing a comprehensive program specifically for your needs. And I also, again, want to mention that we have launched our brand new food cycler Maestro that has a 5-liter capacity. So while it's double the capacity, it actually has a smaller footprint. So if you do keep it on your counter or wherever you keep it, it takes up less space than the food cycler that's in your community right now. So as I mentioned, we were named finalists in the Impact Canada Food Waste Reduction Challenge, thanks to implementation partners like you. Right now, we're at stage 2 and have received a prize of $400,000 that we are 100% redistributing back to our municipal programs. All of our early implementation partners, like Drayton Valley, have first right of refusal on this round of federal funding. It will be available until May 2023 or until the funding is fully allocated. So this means we're pleased to be able to offer the Food Cycler FC30 at the same low price as your initial pilot program, so $250. And we're also offering a significant investment into our new Food Cycler Maestro as well, and recommending municipalities move forward with some mix of the larger and the smaller unit to accommodate the residents' needs. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for having me today. I'm happy to answer questions you may have and discuss potential paths forward based on the success of this initial pilot program.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's exciting. Glad to see that you've received some funding there and we're in stage 2. It's an exciting program. I know the feedback in the community was fantastic. The people that were able to purchase these machines were very excited. I know there was a bit of a waiting list. I think that the numbers were a lot higher than what we expected. So it's what it sounds like is that there might be another opportunity to run this again. So that's pretty exciting. I will open it up for questions from my council here. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Clark?
Thanks for the presentation, Jessica. How does the survey data compare to the overall, I'm assuming this is all Drayton Valley specific data that you've presented here.
It is.
How does it relate to, I guess, the other municipalities when you lump in their data as well?
Yeah, we really see pretty consistent results across the board. Different municipalities have different issues. So sometimes we see a really big focus on wildlife problems, and that's their biggest, the comments are all, it kept bears away from my yard, or, I don't compost because of bears or wildlife. Some municipalities have, bag tags or tipping fees. Everyone has, their own reasons. So we kind of see that come through the results. But in general, the data and the numbers, the amount of diversion is quite consistent with what we see across other municipalities.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then the commercial unit cost, it seems as though there's an appetite here to potentially use those.
Yeah, so they range, I think the range is about 15 to 20,000 and up, depending on the needs. We have a full commercial department, and I can make those connections if needed. We work with you to figure out what solution is best. So as I mentioned, we have some in restaurants here in Ottawa, in retirement facilities and office buildings. They range from, the size of about a dishwasher to a full scale, like waste compactor size machine. So there's really a range, and it depends on your needs, but they can process, I think the smallest one is about 60 to 80 liters of food waste in 12 to 20 hours. So you could be running 80 liters of food waste every day and processing it, which can keep up with restaurants or smaller coffee shops, and then moving up to full scale.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. Good morning, and yeah, thank you for the presentation. I had the opportunity to use one of those, and yes, it's a fantastic product. I agree with some of the comments there. The size of the unit, as well as time it takes to go one cycle, is kind of a problem point. I saw myself. I was just wondering, you mentioned about the pilot program, and could you refresh my mind on what was the sample size of Drayton Valley's pilot project there? Also, you mentioned about a $250 price point for the next pilot as well. So is that, because I remember that it's been 150, so how did that work out as well?
Sure, yes. So you had 100 residents in your pilot program. And what we do is offer the FC30 to you at $250, but then you sell it to the resident at $150. So the cost to the municipality is $100 per machine. And we use some of, we contribute to that as a company. We also use some of the Impact Canada funding to get it to that level. And then the price point you set for your residents to participate was $150. So you recover some of that cost.
Sounds good.
And I
Thank
will
you.
say too, with the larger, the new Food Cycler Maestro, we can have a discussion as well about what that cost sharing looks like. But the way we have it set up right now, and that we're proposing to municipalities, is that the $100 price point to the municipality stays the same. So it doesn't matter which devices you order, whether it's the FC30 or the Maestro, the cost to the municipality is the same, but the residents absorb that cost if they want more capacity. And we're seeing that in households of, over 3, there's always that desire for more capacity. So they would have the choice. We could do a split order, and they would have the choice of which unit to buy based on their needs. And then they would pay a little bit more if they want the larger unit.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to just ask Abid, did you have any questions? This might be something that you're interested in. You don't have to, but I thought maybe if you had any questions or if there was anything you're interested in. Okay, perfect. I just thought I'd throw it out there and see. Abid is from our administration. He's an engineer, so he's working on presenting us with some stats and some programs from our landfill here in Drayton Valley. So I thought I would just throw it out there and ask if you had any questions. So is there a deadline for the grant funding?
So we do need to have it spent by May. We are, of course, working with other municipalities. So, you have the first right of refusal on it, but once the funding is allocated, it's allocated. So we're really trying to move forward and make decisions in the next couple of months, just to make sure you have that opportunity to have the funding.
Perfect. And then, so would it be 100 residents again for the program, or is there a different number, or could we increase it, or?
Yeah, any and all of the above. We would work
Okay.
together with you to decide what the right number is, what's realistic based on registration last time, the investment that you're willing to put in, and then again on that split. So if you want to order 50% of the smaller unit, 50% of the larger unit, we would work with you to figure out what's best for you.
Okay, perfect. And then just one last question from me. We do have a business in town that is selling the, I think it's filters and extra pots and stuff like that. They're right out, or they're getting like close to being
Okay.
out. So how do they continue if they wanted to continue to sell this?
Yeah, so we can send them another batch. I'm
Okay,
sure we have
okay.
their contact information, or I can figure out who that is and reach out to them to get them restocked again.
Yeah, that would be great, because yeah, I stopped by and visited them about a month ago, and they had said that they're getting pretty low there and they wanted to restock it because it's very popular. People come in all the time, so.
Yeah, no problem. We can take care of that.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I know it's an exciting program. We have some discussions to be had here, and to decide on whether we want to opt in again for the program before the funding ends in May. And I think that I know personally that I really enjoyed it. I myself purchased one of the cyclers and enjoyed it, and was surprised at the amount of waste that you actually use, or on a daily basis, like even cleaning out your fridge and when you're preparing, like I was cutting potatoes the one day and you don't really realize what's going into your garbage till you're actually doing it on a daily basis and you're tracking it and seeing and you think, wow, you know what, it all adds up and it's neat to see.
Definitely,
And
especially over the holiday season. Mine was
Yeah.
running pretty constantly. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, there was a couple times I had it going twice a day, right? And then would save it in bins and stuff like that. Do you
Yeah.
know if there's a shelf life for like when you do save it? Like to be putting it in your vegetable gardens and lawn and things like that?
As long as it's kept dry, it's fine. It's stable because it's dehydrated, so there aren't any like active bacteria in it until you put it back into soil. So I keep mine in a 5-gallon bucket downstairs that I will use in the springtime. But yeah, no, as long as it stays dry, then you're fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the time and the presentation today, and we look forward to potentially working with you in the future.
All right. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So with that presentation, since we no longer have our climate coordinator with us, is there a contact for Jessica that we can be kind of going back and forth if we want to continue with the program?
Yeah, so the project still exists within Development and Growth Services Division.
Okay,
Ken or somebody from his departments can reach out and
Can
make
continue.
those connections, and we can bring the information back to council.
okay, perfect. So then once we're done the delegations, if we decide, are we going to have a discussion about whether we want to proceed with that?
We didn't have a conversation scheduled for today, but if council wants to provide some direction, they certainly can. Otherwise, administration will get some of the other information available and come back to council for direction.
Okay, so maybe just from the counselors that are here today, how is everybody feeling if we'd want to receive a little bit more information on this? I know that there is a May deadline, so what kind of are your next steps? Rick, did you want to add a comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to see the costs laid out and what kind of demand we have. I mean, it sounds like we've got additional people who have lots of interest. Just see the numbers laid out and present it to us, I think. I'd prefer anyway, instead of making a decision today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I think, yeah, if we could maybe have that information provided at our next meeting, then we can make a decision for there, what our numbers were, what the amount of people. I know personally that there was 100 participants and I know we'd exceeded that 100. So I think there was a few people that didn't get machines that were, you know, I think asking if there would be another program. I don't know what that number was though, right? I know that we have those stats. So maybe if we could have those stats with everything the next meeting, that'd be wonderful. And then we can decide. Yeah, the price between, yeah. Yeah, and then maybe also as well, they spoke about commercial. I'm not sure if for comments, if there, how many there was commercial. We could even just, I guess, put that connection with there. I did like how she said the retirement facility. I thought that was really interesting. You know, we have a few, and I know that, you know, our seniors too, they're planting flowers and they're doing gardening. This would be an additional way to get them involved in the community and to see the waste that's coming into the facility, not only in their own little units, but, you know, within the larger center, and give them an opportunity to do that and then incorporate it into their gardening. I thought would be, you know, I'd be interested in what that cost would be for them as well to see, or if they'd be interested. It's kind of neat, I thought. Okay, perfect. So I do see that Sienna is here for our next delegation. So good morning, welcome. And if you want to just come down to the podium, then we can get started. Good morning, Happy New Year. Just ensure that the mic is on. I think it's supposed to be green, the light. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Happy New Year, and I'm a little bit nervous.
That's okay. Don't be nervous. Just, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Sienna, and I've been here in Drayton Valley for like 7.5 years. So the reason why I'm here today is to not actually present like what the lady did. I don't have that fancy thing, but I'm here to represent the Filipino community. Myself, other Filipino cannot come with me, but yeah. So the reason why I'm here is to ask for a proclamation or a request for a proclamation of a Philippine Independence Day. Philippine Independence Day, we observe that every June 12, commemorating the declaration of Philippine Independence Day from Spain in 1898. So this year will be 125 years of freedom. So, so Philippine Independence Day basically is like similar to Canada Day. In the Philippines, we do the same thing. We call it a Philippine Festival or a heritage. So this already been doing in big cities like Edmonton, Calgary. We bring in entertainment like Filipino artists bring here in Canada, and it's like a weekend event, or sometimes they do a whole week event. And I know we are a small town and we cannot do that thing, maybe in the future, but basically I just want at least like every year we'll have like, you know, the Filipinos come together one morning, whatever, June 12, whatever day it will fall. And if we can raise our flag and we can sing our own national anthem. And then part of that, maybe in the future, we can set up an event that we can bring in tourism in our community. And being also part of Chamber of Commerce, and I used to be part of Multicultural Association, which is I'm still friends of them, and we are thinking of collaborating in setting up this event, and that we can share to you or show you a taste of Philippines, so that we have different regions. We have variety of food that probably none of you taste them yet. So so I thought about that June 12 or whatever the weekend will fall, we can have a small celebration, and the whole town are welcome to taste the Filipino food. So that's it.
Turn my mic on. Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for Sienna this morning? Councillor Gamana.
Thank you, and thank you, Sienna. It's great to see you here.
Thanks.
So just wondering, it's a fantastic idea. And as we were in a meeting and we were talking about demographics and numbers, and it came to light that, second largest or the first largest visible minority is Filipinos in our community, right? So I was just wondering, you have this plan and everything, and you're asking the town for a proclamation. What else are you looking from the town, or is it just that, and then you will organize with your team everything else?
Yeah, so because I don't want to make it like so big of a conversation today, so that will be like next step once the organization had a meeting, and then we can that's the next step is we want the participation of the town for this event, because this will the town will benefit from it. And yeah, did I answer your question?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think it's great. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I think that it's important that we're celebrating, these important days and the culture in our community and all the people that live in Drayton Valley. I did look on my calendar. It is a Monday. We do have a council meeting on the 14th, so that would be the Wednesday. So we could definitely do a proclamation, for the day or for the week and do that. And I think as you further along in your plans and ideas, just keep us in the loop. And if you're having a celebration or festival, ensure that we're invited and, how we can be included in that. It's very exciting that you'll be celebrating 125 years, and we'd like to be celebrating with you. And keep in mind, too, that then July 1st is Canada Day, and there's a parade. So if you wanted to put a float in the parade and things like that, all those other little things. And I know there's other events that are happening. Maybe, you could get with another club or organization in the community and, you know, see if you could do like a festival together, right? Maybe we can do some sort of cultural days or celebrate, you know, different people that live in our community, like together plan a day, right?
Yep, yeah, that's another part of the idea as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Oh, for sure. And then you're in contact with Pam. So as you go along, just kind of keep Pam in the loop and then what date you're going to be celebrating. And if there's anything else, then she can let us know.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I
Thank you
really
so much for
appreciate it.
coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, so that is it for our delegations this morning. Before we move into our decision items, there is a special days acknowledgement that I would like to do. I'd like to recognize that January 25th is Bell's Let's Talk Day. January 27th is International Day of Commemoration in Memory of the Victims of the Holocaust. In addition to these dates, January is also Tamil Heritage Month. Special days, weeks, and months help to strengthen cultural awareness, remember historic events, and inspire residents to take action or get involved in important causes. I know that we just had a delegation that talked about a proclamation, and we do have a lot of times people in the community that reach out to us and they ask us for a proclamation, and this is just an example. And when we don't receive those requests, you know, we try to be aware of different days that are happening, you know, different days, different weeks, and different months, and just to do a little bit of shout out of what's kind of happening in and around our community and in our province and things like that as well. So those are some of the acknowledgements that we have happening for the month of January. And with that, we'll move into a 9.1, which is our first decision item of the day, which is our discretionary use request for automotive sales and service at 5442 55th Street, Lot 30, Block 35, Plan 0820505, Development Permit Application DV 22-062. And this was in regards to the public hearing that we just had a few minutes ago this morning. So good morning again, Jarek.
Good morning again, Your Worship and fellow council members. Administration received a request for an automotive repair and customization shop classified by our land use bylaw as an automotive sales and service use to operate out of 5442 55 Street. The property is zoned C-Gen Commercial General District, where automotive sales and service is a discretionary use and must be decided by council. If admin can just go to the next slide. The site currently appears and operates as a detached multi-bay commercial to light industrial building, flanking a parking lot surrounded by similar style buildings and operations on all sides. A site visit was conducted on December 16th at approximately 8:15 a.m. and minor welding and general contractor work by another business in the building was observed on site. Observed neighboring the site was an accounting office to the southwest, a maintenance shop to the northwest, an office and light industrial complex to the northeast, and a contracting operation and storage yard on the opposite side of the street. The proposed automotive repair and customization operations are planned to occur out of one of the bays alongside the building, and is not observed by administration to be conflicting use with other on-site or surrounding businesses. Specifically, the bay seeking to be used by the applicant previously operated as a tire shop until it closed in 2020. With the adoption of the current land use bylaw in 2021, the site in question lost automotive sales and repairs operations as a permitted use. Now it is discretionary use instead. This area of town has historic use for automotive services and grandfathered in existing light industrial operations, so administration does not see an issue with the permitting of an automotive sales and service type operation to occur at this location. The site itself is not subject to an area structure plan and is indicated as part of the commercial and light industrial area within the MDP. Section 2.8 of the MDP provides general policy guidance for these areas and specifically states, quote, "For the most part, restaurants, hotels, professional services, and other commercial activities coexist happily beside auto repair, storage yards, and car washes of the industrial sector. There are no policies outlined in the MDP that would interfere with opening an automotive repair and customization shop at the chosen location, and administration views the proposal as being in adherence. Administration's recommendation is that council approve development permit DV 22-062 with conditions as presented and is willing to answer any questions or comments you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that this morning. Are there any questions? Councilor Sheriff?
I do. So it says sales, as in a dealership, or is it just strictly out of the, can repair a vehicle at the bay and sell it out of the bay?
Thank you for the question. The way the land use bylaw is written is we bundle them together. So an automotive sales center would be falling under the same use category as an automotive repair. Oftentimes the automotive sales have repair bays attached to them. And so frequently a municipality will bundle them together as the same general use category. For the business that's applying currently, it is opting to operate a repairs and customizations only. There was no indication that sales was to occur.
Oh, okay, that was my concern, because depending on which bay the applicant wants to use, you know, the cluster of vehicles in the parking lot might be an issue, but no, that's fine.
Councillor Romana?
Thank you. Just from my understanding, so right now it's light industrial and then we are moving to CGen, right? Is that kind of the transition? Also, wondering about, you know, the repairs. There's enough, I guess, building space for everything to be done inside the closed area? Is that the idea of going forward with this?
Thank you for the question. To answer the first question regarding the zoning, no, the zoning is C general already, commercial general. The way that the land use bylaw is written is it recognizes that due to the history of the commercial and industrial sectors in the town, there's sort of a blurred line between the two of them. So in the commercial general zone, it does allow for some light industrial type activities to occur, but those are listed as discretionary uses. And that's where it considers the automotive sales and repair as a light industrial. So we're not changing the zone over. It is still staying the same zone, but because it's a discretionary use in the zone, that is why it's being presented before council for a hearing on that. And then for the second question regarding the usage of the site and the area on there, the expectation is yes, that the repairs are happening within the building itself.
Thank you.
So with that being said, looking at our land use bylaw, I know that we did an update to it just recently, and this is the CGen Commercial General District. Do you feel that there shouldn't have been an amendment to this area to more of a light industrial area? Like when I look at the businesses that are there and then I look at the permitted uses, there's not very many permitted uses. I would say the majority of the uses are discretionary there. And then going forward, you know, rather than coming to council all the time for discretionary uses, is there an appetite or is there any consideration that we would want to rezone this area in the future?
Thank you for the question. Yes, administration has been taking a look at this area and looking at regards to how a lot of the uses that are currently there are stuck in a grandfathered in situation where they're permitted to continue. But if somebody else was to come in and try to operate the same business at the same location, they'd be stuck with the discretionary use issue going on. So administration is exploring the options that we have, which route to best proceed may involve rezoning, may involve other amendments to the land use bylaw. We're still at the early stages of the discussion there, but that is something that we are actively exploring and will likely have future updates later on in the year.
Okay, perfect. So then when we're looking at discretionary uses and things like that, looking at conditions and things like that, where and on Councillor Sheriff's question there, is it, and that probably is, and I missed it, for parking, is there a number of parking stalls that are considered for this development application as well?
Thank you for the question. Yes, for the development application, there is a parking stall requirement based on the square meterage of the area of the use itself. And so when we did an analysis, we looked at the rough outline that we had for the bay that was provided on building blueprints at the time, as well as the other uses going on there. And when it was added together, the minimum requirements there due to the land use bylaw requesting a rounding down looked to be about 2 stalls needed. For all the uses currently on site, it would increase as more operations go into the other bays there. But when we did our investigation on site, even though ground coverage had snow on there, with historical satellite imagery, we were able to determine there's probably about a dozen parking stalls on there, which would be vastly exceeding what they would require under the land use bylaw.
Okay, and that was based on the bay, not the building itself? Those
Yes,
were-
because we don't know what other uses are in the empty spots, and each use has a different parking requirements under land use bylaw, so we would not be able to say for sure what the whole building was without knowing what all the uses would be within it down the road.
Okay, and then we don't anticipate any like dangerous goods and things like that? And then what about like oil dumping and things like that when it comes to the business? What's kind of happening with that?
So with the issues around contamination, that is typically a reason why automotive sales and service and type industries are a bit more restricted in terms of just a general permission across the whole municipality. So there are different levels of government in charge of various aspects of it. A lot of times if there's contamination issues, it gets elevated up to a provincial environmental matter for that. It also is a matter in terms of if the site were to try to convert over to a different use, say, for instance, down the road, if it were to try to become residential, then there's definitely elements in terms of doing a site assessment, environmental hazard assessment to see if there's any issues or leakage in the history of the site itself. But for continuing as an automotive use in an industrial area that also previously operated with an automotive type use in there, in terms of issues around contamination, it's not seen as exacerbating the problem in any way. It's just a continuation of the types of activities that were on site. So typically administration does not view that as an increased environmental concern.
Okay. So there's no condition that says must dispose of in a certain way or anything like that?
They would still be required to under the provincial legislation around proper treatment in that, but we're not requiring any sort of environmental site assessment.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Sheriff?
So based on the square meters of the space that this applicant is getting, you said there is 2 parking spots available for that space, but there's 12 available. Is there a limit set for each? There's like the 1, 2, 3, 4 bays, right? So is there a limit of how many parking spaces each one can use? Seeing how there's 12 available, right?
Thank you for the question. That would be up to the building
If you want
owner
the
itself.
mic. Yeah, if you want to come to the mic, I'll let Jarek, you can go ahead, Jarek can answer that, and then I'll have gentleman come
Thank
to
you.
the.
Generally, that's set as the responsibility of the building owner to ensure that each business operation in there is having the adequate parking. If they're finding that a particular use may have increased traffic, they may allocate them more stalls. But in terms of the land use planning, we look at the uses converted over in the table on the land use bylaw and see if the site has the parking stalls that are required as a minimum.
So good morning, I'm assuming you're the applicant.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, just ensure that the light is on green, and if you want to
Hello.
go ahead, you can.
For the parking, if you look at how the building's made, the first 4 bays are only 1 door. So they have their parking is across the width of their door. The bay that I'm renting, I have 2 doors. So I can basically fit 4 vehicles across in front of my door, and I have space for 3 inside. Now, I'm not going to be restoring vehicles, like tearing them apart, rebuilding them, just customizing. So no projects are going to drag outside, right? It's more in and out the next day type of thing.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was wondering, because I know that there's, the first couple bays are rented by iWell.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if there's how many, and then I see the space that you're looking at, right? So I don't want one business overflowing the whole parking lot and then this.
no, yeah, our well has the first 3,
Mm-hmm,
and then there's one mobile mechanic that's between us.
okay.
And actually, if this could take off and work, I'd also be interested in, just for the extra space, right?
Mhm.
Getting the next 2 after me, because they've been empty for the past 2-3 months.
Okay,
Then I wouldn't be in anybody's way.
all right.
Thank you. Councillor Commander, do you have another question?
No, I'm just going to make a motion on this.
Oh, okay, I'm just going to go to Councillor Evans first. I think he has a question.
Yeah, I think I share a couple of the other councilors' concerns. We just don't want to end up with a bunch of parts cars out there
No.
and stuff building up. The other question I had was, is there a sump in the building? And do you know if that sump in the floor is tied into our sewer system?
Oh, there's a drain in the center. I'm not exactly sure where it goes.
Thank you for the question. That's generally not something that is observed during development permit process, but if that is an issue for council, we can definitely take a look and see what the building permit records have on file for that if you wish.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have any requirements. I think it's probably Alberta Environment has a requirement. Of course, we'd hate to see, oil, antifreeze, that kind of stuff going into our sewage system.
Oh,
I'm not sure if there's a separator in there. You know, a lot of the time to do it right, it'll fall into a secondary containment, and then any contaminants will stay at the top, and it'll kind of bleed it off the bottom. So I'm not sure if that's something we've pursued or paid much attention to in the past, but it may be worthwhile if we see more of these to see how or if they're hooked directly into our sewage system, which, you know, may be the case. Some of them are probably fairly old and may be tied directly in. So.
Thank you for the comments. We'll definitely take a look at that as part of that advanced look into the potential changing around for the land use bylaw for these kinds of things.
Great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we don't feel there needs to be a condition or a note in the app or in the development permit that states that it is adhering to provincial regulations when it comes to contamination or anything like that? I'm just,
Thank you for the question. If council so wishes, it may be made as an amendment to the development permit, draft permit that was presented. So rather than making a motion to accept it as presented, you would first make a motion for council to vote on whether they want to have that amendment added into the draft. And then if it's approved with the amended development permit, the one that we would issue out would have such a condition on there.
okay, so if there's a member of council that wants to be making a motion, keep that in mind that you would either make the motion to accept or accept with the amendment added in the draft for administration. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. On that line, just for clarification, so this is the development permit, and then when it comes to building permit, I think administration will be looking at all of that, right? Before you approve any building permit.
Thank you for the question. So the building permits are managed by the province and provincial bodies there. So administration, we do not directly manage building permits. We are basically serving as a middleman where these items then go to a provincial body. The one we use in Drayton Valley is Inspections Group. An Inspections Group does a review for these kinds of things. So it would not be us directly, but we would have a process for it.
So what's your recommendation, to include this on the motion or just leave it to the province and the building permit process?
What my recommendation would be is that if council wishes to add in a clause on there that I believe the issues around the sub pump, correct, that everybody's concerned about, that the hookups are in accordance with the provincial building code.
Go ahead, Councillor Evans?
Yeah, the sump I'm referring to is a drain in the floor.
Yeah.
And again, much of the time there'll be a separation. There'll be sort of one section for containment and the rest for fluid that'll run down into the drain. I'm sure that there's a lot of sumps out there in the town right now that probably do not meet the requirements. I don't know if it's fair to try and fix this particular one at the expense of the applicant when, I know we're not looking at all of them in town. So I don't know, maybe a simpler amendment would be that no detrimental fluids of any kind may enter the sewage system, something like that, as opposed to putting a requirement for a sump system. I think what we may find when we go look at this thing is that it's a basic sump for the building owner to put in for instance, in Breton at the fire hall, there's a separate tank that everything falls into before it's pushed into the sewage system, and that lets everything fall out and settle. To do that in this particular building, I think would probably be a significant cost to the owner of the building. So I'm kind of bumbling away here, but the
Yeah.
bottom line is to fix it to where it should be is going to mean large expense. If it's not set up right now, I think if we just keep it simple and say the applicant cannot allow any of those types of things to enter our sewage system, I think maybe that might be a more reasonable requirement of the development permit. I don't know. What do you think?
I get what you're saying, and I agree. I don't want to be adding any extra cost to the applicant. I guess I do have a concern that when you do say other development or other things that are happening in the community, we're going to at some point have to start, right? So I don't want to see extra costs, but maybe administration has a solution where we can somehow come to a better
Yeah.
understanding here.
I might. I did want to make sure that typically issues surrounding the building are addressed at the building permit stage and wouldn't be readdressed on a development application for an existing building. One of the things we've talked about in our work plan for the year is examining sewer contaminant rates coming out of certain businesses. So we know certain businesses have higher levels of sewer contamination elements than others. And there are examples where other municipalities have developed surcharges for those types of things. So that is in the work plan. We're working on that now. So that might be a way for us to conduct testing and identify places where they're not adequately filtering out these contaminants, at which time we would then be able to give the business or building the opportunity to either address their contaminate rates or pay a surcharge. So that might be the more appropriate way to address that concern. Because again, when those things go into the sewer system, they do cause increased costs for us to clean before we release the water back to the natural system. So that was the purpose of the project in the first place, and it might address what we're concerned about here.
So would we still want to see an additional condition on here that, as Rick had mentioned, just ensuring that disposal of detrimental fluids and waste is disposed of accordingly to provincial regulations or something like that?
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, the provincial regulations stand on their own, so they apply at
Yeah.
any rate.
Yeah.
But I think it would highlight on the development permit that council is concerned about these things. And
Yeah.
as we proceed, it just highlights it as an area of concern and an area where everybody will want to be careful.
And then keep in mind going forward, any type of development permits with that we'd want to include that and then work towards what Rob's talking about there for when we start to kind of flesh this out a little bit deeper as well.
Yeah. And we can do that on buildings going forward too.
Yeah.
We can, the perspective has changed. And so in new building
New builds.
applications, when those permits are coming forward, we can address it at those times that it's an expectation of the community that that would happen.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so if there's a member of council that would like to make a motion. Councillor Clark, sure.
Well, just one other piece to that. So what we're saying is we don't want people to essentially dump TDG controlled substances into systems.
Mhm.
But then the other part is if you do, we want you to report it to us and to the applicable authorities, whether it's Alberta Environment or whoever, right? So I think that's the other piece that probably needs to go in there is if something is released, it must be reported, right?
Thank you for the comment. Yes, that is standard reporting is part of the actual provincial bylaw requirements or provincial legislation requirements as well, if there is something on there, but we can also make it explicit on the development permit as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. Is there a member of council that would like to make a motion then? Councillor Gamana, do you want to make the motion still?
Sure, but I have a question before that. But, just saying, adhering to the guidelines of provincial government, is that good enough? Or do we need to go into details?
Thank you for the question. It would be good enough. This is a bit of a redundancy because the provincial legislation applies regardless. So this is more so just a highlighting feature to say, hey, pay attention to the provincial regulations around this.
I would like to make a motion that council approves development permit DV 22-062 with the recommended conditions, as well as making sure that the development adhere to the provincial guidelines. Thank you.
Is that good enough? Yes, okay. So there's been a motion made with a recommendation to include an additional condition. Is there any comment, question, or debate on the motion? None, then I will ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much for that and congratulations. And what I think we'll do is we'll call for a break at 10:06 a.m. and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes. Okay, good morning again. We will reconvene at 10:21 a.m. and jump back into our decision items. We have 9.2, post-traumatic stress disorder coverage for community peace officers under the Workers' Compensation Act. Good morning, Cody. You're all there and ready and eager to present to us.
Ready to rock and roll.
That's awesome. Well, good morning, and you go right ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'm just here to talk about a proposed resolution to the Alberta Municipalities Association. So post-traumatic stress disorder is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, such as a natural disaster, a serious incident, a terrorist act, war or combat, or rape, or who have been threatened with death, sexual violence, or a serious injury. Public safety personnel appear to be at an increased risk for developing a psychological injury due to the nature of their work, and a study shows that 44.5% meet the criteria for one or more mental disorders. A different study of Canadian public safety personnel indicates that 23.2% of the people that were screened for PTSD tested positive, if you want to call it that, and the general population that was part of that study was at 1.1 to 3.5%. So quite a big difference from your public safety professionals to the general public for that susceptibility to post-traumatic stress disorder. So under the Alberta Workers' Compensation Act, it defines a first responder as a firefighter, paramedic, peace officer, or police officer. So you might be wondering, well, it says peace officer, why am I here? So the definition of peace officer under the Workers' Compensation Act restricts the use of the title of a sheriff. So in Alberta, they have peace officers that are provincial peace officers, so your sheriffs, and you have community peace officers, so people like me that have a gray stripe on the side of our pants. So with the Alberta peace officers, they are covered currently as a first responder under the Workers' Compensation Act when it comes to presumptive coverage of post-traumatic stress disorder. For community peace officers, there's approximately 3,000 community peace officers across the province of Alberta. We do not qualify for the presumptive coverage for post-traumatic stress disorder. So what does that mean? That means that if a community peace officer was to go through WCB and issue or put in a claim for post-traumatic stress disorder, the community peace officer would have to go through the normal standards claim process with Workers' Compensation Act. So with what that kind of process looks like, you have to go to the doctors or a psychologist. You get diagnosed with PTSD from the medical professionals. You then submit your paperwork to WCB. They then go through the adjudication process. That adjudication process, they have a goal of within 45 days. Might sound short, but if you're kind of at that very edge of post-traumatic stress disorder and making that kind of final decisions kind of thing, that 45 days could be a little bit too long kind of thing, right? So what we're looking to do is essentially try and get the definition of community peace officer added to the definition of peace officer in the Workers' Compensation Act. So in conversation with the Ministry of Labor and Immigration right before the new cabinet shuffle that occurred, they indicated that the most recent review of the Workers' Compensation Act of a committee level occurred in 2020, and they only do a review once every 10 years. So they're not planning on looking at it until 2030. Obviously, if something comes up and there's changes, obviously that will happen, but they're not planning on preemptively looking at it till 2030. In conversations with the Alberta Municipalities Association in the creation of this proposed motion. They were very in favor of it. They thought it was an excellent motion, so that's good news for us. Through that, community peace officers, we're involved in the same things that your other first responders that are currently covered do. So we go to the collisions, we deal with the people that are seriously injured or have died in a collision or a fire or something like that. Depending on the scope, community peace officers are involved in hospitals. They're often used in either assisting or transporting of deceased people throughout the hospitals from their room down to the morgue kind of thing, amongst various other traumatic things that we may be exposed to throughout the course of our normal day-to-day employment. So with that being said, kind of what we're looking for today, or I guess I'll just jump back. When the proposed amendments were brought in for the presumptive coverage of of PTSD in 2012, there was conversations during the readings and in the committee of the whole, where there was concerns raised by members in the House regarding kind of the narrow scope of the definition of peace officer. There was some introductions for some amendments to the definition. They never did make its way through. There's further comments. Blake Peterson said that we have police officers, we have sheriffs, we have peace officers, but it doesn't mean that doesn't mean that any one of these people may not be called upon to attend an accident or an event that could create mental anguish or mental stress. So it was very apparent back in 2012 that they had concerns and they wanted to help first responders when it came to PTSD presumptive coverage. Unfortunately, we were just left out at that point. So kind of the recommended steps from here per se is if council, Town of Drayton Valley Council is interested in proceeding with this motion to Alberta municipalities, administration would work to secure a seconder, another municipality. We would then complete the package and forward it to Alberta municipalities by May 31st, I believe it is. They would then have it ready and a member of council would have to present at the next convention that happens on September 27th to 29th in Edmonton, just to have a quick conversation to speak to everyone else on what the motion is. When it comes to a secondary municipality, I've had some conversations with a couple other municipalities, one the city of Edmonton and two the city of Calgary. From the administrative level, they are very in support of this motion. Calgary is still reviewing it to kind of make their final determination on whether they'd want to be the seconder or not. Edmonton has sent it for a legal review. The legal review, they don't have any concerns with it. Edmonton, they are essentially, my understanding from the last conversation I had was they are awaiting Drayton Valley to kind of make a decision. And if Drayton Valley wishes to move it, Edmonton will, administration will proceed to get in front of their council to possibly second the motion. So from that standpoint, Edmonton and Calgary are from a municipal level, the largest employers of community peace officers in Alberta. So to have at least administration at this point on board with this motion does speak volumes as well to the urgency and the importance of having this. So we do kind of have two options if council does wish to proceed with this. One is a quicker way, one is a slower way. The quicker way is to make an amendment to the regulation that would allow for community peace officers to be included. The downside with that is we do not then get recognized as a first responder under the Act. If we go the second route, which is a little bit longer, that allows us to be recognized as a first responder under the Act. Once we get recognized as a first responder under the Workers' Compensation Act, we then become recognized under the Heroes Compensation Act in Alberta. So the Heroes Compensation Act in Alberta it provides a lump sum payment of $100,000 being paid to the dependent or the estate of a first responder that dies as a result of an accident as defined by the Workers' Compensation Act. So in the course of my duties, if I get ran over by a car and I die, for example, currently I'm dead. If we become a first responder defined under the Workers' Compensation Act, not the regulation, then at that point, we would then be included for this Heroes Compensation Act. So our dependent or estate would also be eligible for $100,000 should there be an accidental death kind of thing. So subject to any questions?
Well, thank you very much for that. Any questions this morning? Counselor Clark?
So the faster and the slower methods, can we do both? Can we pursue the regulation and the act at the same time?
We could. My concern, if we do the regulation aspect, is it going to get forgotten? And that's just where it ends. I'm not sure on that. I know Edmonton, their legal counsel was kind of looking into that, and they were the ones that were really kind of suggesting possibly the faster route with the regulation. Ideally, it'd be quicker than not, but like I said, I do have concerns that if they do put it into the regulation, then we're done and they're not going to make any future amendments kind of thing, but I'm not certain.
So Counselor Clark asked if we could do both. So if we do both, wouldn't that guarantee a little bit more of a chance?
So the first step, if it's the faster route, we
Yeah.
would essentially proceed with having Alberta municipalities champion the province to amend the regulation.
Yeah.
Once the regulation is amended, it is quicker, but then it would have to be, Alberta municipalities would have to continuing the pursuit with the province to then amend the act, which it could be done.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be done. Like I said, I'm just a little bit concerned on whether or not they do it in the regulation. Or are they going to do it in the act? I'm not sure.
So as they're doing that, like if we were to work towards amending the regulation, as their Alberta municipalities is doing that, can we then in addition also recognize first responders under that act? Go like now to the second step. As Alberta municipalities are doing that, we're continuing to recognize that first responders are included under the act as well.
Yeah, so I think if we were to go down the route of start with the regulation, the proposed resolution to Alberta municipalities, currently it's technically just a one motion. We'd have a couple motion. One would be to amend the regulation or to champion for the amend to the regulation. The next one is motion now to amend the act, right? So it's possible.
Yeah, we could do
It's
both.
doable. We
Yeah.
can add in that second one, definitely.
Yeah, why not shoot for the stars? Let's do it all. Mr. Osmond.
So my understanding of the process is the purpose of the motion with Alberta municipalities is it's a motion by the membership to get the association to petition and advocate with the government for change in regulation. So I think we can certainly ask for both pieces in one motion. But yeah, I think it's a matter of when it comes to the advocacy lobbying activity, they'll have to decide at what would be the best approach. But I think this is certainly something that's important as municipalities. We do employ community peace officers, and certainly in my opinion, Cody is a first responder. There's lots of times where he is first on the scene. And so there's a bit of mismatch in classification that I think needs to be adjusted.
Oh, I agree totally with you. Yeah, you're providing services to protect our community, and we need to ensure that you're protected as well. And we know that in the past, we've had an incident with one of our own community peace officers that, you know, wasn't a very good incident. So it's very important that we advocate and do what we need to change this for sure. Councillor Kamana, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. That's great. So we're looking at two avenues, one slower, one faster. But I was just wondering, in the meantime, especially for the PTSD and presumed incident happening, right? On that side of things, is there anything that we have taken care of for protect you when you're out there?
So I would fall just like any other employee kind of thing. So I would fall under if, for example, I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with PTSD today kind of thing, I would have to go through the normal everybody process, if you want to call it that, right? And that's the process which, again, it includes the Getting the diagnosis, then submitting the paperwork to WCB. They go through the adjudication process, which takes up to 45 days. Part of that process, when I was talking with WCB, they said it's an unfortunate thing because they pry to get exactly what was going on, right? So it essentially kind of possibly re-traumatizes the individual through that process. So even when talking with WCB and gave them the background information on what I was kind of preparing kind of thing, the supervisor with WCB thought it was a great idea as well to be moving in this direction, right? So obviously if there is through the adjudication process, then they could be denied. At that point, they'd have different levels of appeal available to them. Even with, I guess it is important to note as well, like just because it would be considered a presumptive coverage for PTSD, when you go to the doctor and it has to be work related. And it has to be related to one of the things that is actually defined. So again, your traumatic event. So it's not, I'm being disciplined for something with HR and all of a sudden I think I have PTSD. So I'm just going to go to the doctor and I get diagnosed with PTSD and it's presumptive at that case. That's not how it works. Again, it has to be something from like out on the road kind of thing, right? Not a internal mechanism of injury where I'm just having conflicts and I'm trying to get off work kind of thing. Like it actually has to be, I was out, I attended a collision, there was a person that was disfigured and now I can't sleep and whatever else involves in that, right? So, so yeah, like I said, be a kind of like a normal employee through the process. Now the town does have different supports available for all employees. If they are having mental health issues or concerns kind of thing. So those kind of supports are available to myself, just like any other employee.
Right, but what I was thinking more on the line, Edmonton, Calgary, you mentioned, do their peace services have different coverages than everybody else as employees when it comes to insurance and other things?
Like from the employee's
Health-
benefit
health-
package?
Package, yeah, health
Yeah.
insurance kind of thing. on
Rob,
that-
can you help me
that
out on that
front.
one?
Yeah, I might be able to help. So every municipality is going to have a benefits package for their employees that covers extended health pieces. In addition, workers' compensation provides for workplace injuries. The big difference here is that this particular class of employees has a much higher incidence of this particular workplace injury. And so the presumptive coverage basically says, well, it is reasonable to assume that if you experience post-traumatic stress from your work as a first responder, that WCB doesn't have to go through the same long process. So if through the course of my work with the organization, I encountered an incident and I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder, I could still receive coverage through workers' compensation, but it's not presumptive coverage. So the process is significantly longer. And so when we have a group of employees that have 8 to 9 times the occurrence of post-traumatic stress, the presumptive coverage is essential in making sure that they get that help faster. It's not that it's not available, but the presumptive coverage basically skips the step of trying to figure out whether it's reasonable that a workplace incident caused post-traumatic stress in an employee, because we know the situations that first responders see every day contain within them a high incident of causing this type of damage. So we still have benefits, we still have workers' compensation, but it's different. And so when they lost the presumptive coverage for this small group of first responders, I think that's the piece we got to put back together.
Any other questions? Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion, please? I need a motion, guys. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, everybody wants to do it. Okay. Yeah, everybody wants to do it. Counselor Sheriffs.
So I would like to make a motion that the council accepts the post-traumatic stress disorder coverage for community peace officers under the Workers' Compensation Act report as information and directs administration to submit a completed resolution package to the Alberta Municipalities Association for the 2023 convention.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? Counselor Clark.
Do we just specify the fast or slow method? That we want one for both regulation and act?
I don't think that's required, and it might give us a little bit more flexibility. I'm thinking particularly if the city of Edmonton is interested in being a partner, a seconder on the motion, that would certainly be a ringing endorsement for our motion. And if they have a preference of attack one way or the other, I'd hate to lose that opportunity for them as a partner. Not specifying it means that as we prepare it, we can pick the most appropriate approach.
Counselor Evans.
I probably should have asked this question before we made the resolution, but so the act provides a lump sum payment of $100,000 being paid to the dependents or estate of the first responder. So that's if you die. What do we have in place for employees in general if they get killed? Do we have insurance? You get half your salary, or your dependents get a year's salary, or what do we have in place right now?
Yeah, the specific coverage, I believe, is the accidental death and dismemberment insurance that's included in our benefits package. The particulars of what would be paid, I believe, is variable dependent on the age of the employee as well as the type of disability that results from the incident. So I don't know the exact number, but
yeah,
we
I'm
do
talking
have
about,
coverage.
I'm talking about if a employee is killed on the job, not injured. I realize they'll establish different levels depending on the severity of the injury. I'm just trying to get my head around, okay, so there'll be $100,000 payment made to the dependents, and what else is there that we provide independent of that?
Thankfully, Alicia has come to the table, so she'll have more specifics.
Sure. There is two different types of coverage that our employees have who are eligible for benefits. There's the life insurance benefit, which is double annual income, so depending on employee's wage. And then there also is the accidental death and dismemberment coverage that they could apply for as well, and it's based on annual income as well. And of course, then workers' compensation if it is a work-related
Right.
incident.
Yeah, that whole process would kick in then, et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
Good.
thanks.
Okay. Any other comment, question, or debate on the motion? Okay, there's a motion on the table, and I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving along, we'll move to 9.3, information report, development notice distances to the public. Welcome back, Jarek.
If I can just get the information report slides brought up from admin. Thank you. Yes, good morning, Your Worship and fellow council members. So stemming from a recent larger land development applications processed by administration that required substantial resources to meet town notification requirements, administration has been reviewing the policy that established our notification radius measurements to see if a future update is warranted. Administration is presenting our initial review findings as an information report to you today to help gauge council input and interest in the matter before proceeding further. Under the Municipal Government Act, municipalities are required to notify surrounding property owners of various development applications of what is being sought and how to provide comment back for consideration. The MGA defers defining what constitutes surrounding properties to municipalities, who generally each implement their own definition of what surrounding means. Currently, the policy used to define the notification boundary is policy PD 0408, which was adopted in 2008 and reviewed in 2012 and 2014, making it nearly a decade since it was last examined. Spurring on the review was a series of recent larger mailouts required per the policy that expended considerable time and resources from administration, causing a need to examine for potential adjustments and efficiencies. To assist in this endeavor, administration reached out or researched comparable policies from various neighboring or similar municipalities and compiled a comparison across 11 different jurisdictions. The result is included as attachment 2 to your council report. Administration's review concluded that Drayton Valley policy vastly exceeded nearly all comparable municipalities. Drayton Valley policy is to start physical notifications at a 60-meter radius minimum and climb as high as 500 meters depending on the application type. In comparison, most municipalities either use a literal interpretation of surrounding properties to either define those directly touching the subject site or use buffer radiuses of about 30 to 60 meters from the site. As a result, Drayton Valley is notifying up to 16 times more property owners with a physical mailout than some of our contemporaries. And this increase is reflected in the costs. Adjusted for the 2023 fee rate now in effect, review of a few of the past couple mailouts indicated that approximately 50 to 85% of the application fee taken in was being used exclusively to cover the mailing costs of notifying surrounding property owners, leaving all other related costs to be subsidized by other municipal fees. Additionally, administration reviewed 3 mock scenarios to see what their associated costs would be and found expenses under current policy could range from 113 to 223% of the application fee being taken in, meaning that the mail-out notice costs alone would incur a deficit needing to be subsidized from elsewhere. This abundance of notification, however, has not seemingly correlated to increased public participation in the proposal and hearing process as a result. Frequently, proposal notifications dispersed receive no comments back or may have 1 or 2 inquiries for further explanation, but then wish to engage no further. Additionally, all physical notifications mailed out get corresponding notices on the town website and typically receive social media postings as well. Communication numbers place website traffic as seeing approximately 22,000 to 24,500 users visiting per quarter, with administration receiving about with Facebook receiving about 31,000 to 40,000 users viewing in the same time frame. For administration, continuing online notification is a viable means for getting the notice out to the general public in lieu of larger physical mailouts. The town is also subject to a separate intermunicipal development plan requirement, wherein once a development application for a proposal as outlined in the IDP is received within 100 meters of town boundary, administration is required to include Brazeau County administration as a notified stakeholder in the application. The timelines and regulations are stipulated in the IDP. Any future potential changes to the town policy would not affect our IDP requirements. This report is presented with a recommendation to accept as information only. However, administration encourages questions and comments from council to help determine whether further exploration of a future policy adjustment would be warranted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for administration this morning? Councillor Evans?
Yeah, I'm all for the adjustments. Does it still meet our legislative requirements if we drop them down significantly?
Thank you for the question. The legislative requirements are that we are to notify adjacent property owners. And so at a bare minimum, the literal interpretation is those lots directly touching it. Anything beyond that is above what provincial requirements are.
I see very few people come forward so far when we've been dealing with development permits. It seems to me that we're spending a lot of money and not getting a lot of response from that, from the general public around these developments. I think it's a good idea to reduce the radius significantly to who we inform, and use our online presence to put it out there for the general public, and if they have any issues, then they can pursue it from there. If they're beyond that, those severely reduced radiuses.
Thank you for that. Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. Just wondering on our policy, does it state that it need to be physically mailed out, or does it say that we need to be contacting these residents? I can't remember what was the policy's exact words.
Thank you for the question. The policy is for the physical mailout, and it's to address in the Municipal Government Act, which requires that there's a physical notice for surrounding property owners. The policy is in place to define what surrounding means for the municipality. So others may do adjacent. Ours policy is very set. It says certain ones 100 meters, other ones 300 meters, and some up to 500 meters. So it is specifically for the physical mailout.
Thank you. So here's my dilemma, I get that, the cost associated with it, right? And all that. But on the other hand, I like the idea of notifying the residents around there, because sometimes we get the comments that they don't know this happened. They didn't get the notice, or they had no idea that this happened already, and there's something happening, right? So in that sense, I see the value of notifying the residents around there. But also when I see the cost, of course, that's something I'm cognizant of as well. So I was wondering, on the other hand, maybe, we're talking about website and Facebook, but also I believe hopefully we have a list of email addresses for property owners, because we are, of course, sending our notices and all that. Or is that something that we can look into? The second option, of course, the utility bills, right? So does these need to go as a separate mail out, or can it be included with the utility bill as well? I understand sometimes the timing might not be right, but I was just wondering, is that some consideration that we can give?
Thank you for the question. Regarding I'll start with the utility comment first. It is very much dependent on the time frame. The different applications run on different scheduling, and then depending when applications come in and when we can book them for council hearing. Sometimes we have to get notices out within a day of the application coming in, just to make sure we're hitting our, depending on the application, between 2 weeks up to 4 weeks timeline for the physical notices to go out there. So it would be a case-by-case basis. If we happened to have utility notices going out there, we might be able to explore that, but that would not be a guaranteed thing. So I would be reluctant to be too reliant on trying to twin it with the utility notices there. Regarding the emails, we could explore that further to see if that's a potential option. We would still require to send a physical mail out, though, to surrounding properties based on the Municipal Government Act. So that may be an extra step to say between a certain distance we may look at emails, but that's something we'd have to explore further.
Mr. Osmond, did you have something to add?
Yeah, if I could add to that, one of the issues with the utility mail out would be consistency, because we wouldn't be able to do it for everyone. So that would mean in some processes we would use it, and in others we wouldn't. And that inconsistency, I think, would not be supportive of the intent of what we see in the MGA. The problem with email addresses is that we do collect them for various things, but we are limited by FOIP to the purpose for which they were collected. So we would have to start a database of emails that we could use. It would be in relative constant flux, and then any emails that you didn't have would require mailing notification. I'm not sure you'd manage to simplify the process, because you'd have an email component, a mail component, and updating those email addresses would be voluntary at best. So it'd be challenging.
Any other questions? So I do have a couple, so when I look at the map that's up there, our existing buffer at the 300 meters, so what zoning, is this for an ASP is this speaking to? Is this different districts within the land use?
Thank you for the question. So this particular example is the rezoning that took place at the Terraloma lands at the southwest corner of 46th Avenue and 47th Street in December.
Yeah.
So that was considered as a rezoning, and for a rezoning, we have to do a 300-meter mail-out currently.
So then the suggestion is, rather than the 300, we would do the 120?
We haven't made a suggestion yet.
Oh, okay.
We've run it
just
as an
showing?
example to see what this would look like if we dropped it down to about 120.
Okay, gotcha there. Okay. And then when I look at some of the example scenarios and things, look at the DeBee lands, Mitchell Drive and things like that, there's a 500 meter that's currently, right, in El Dorado and things like that?
For El Dorado, the example used was a rezoning, so that would be 300 meters. But
Yeah.
for the DeBeeland example and the Mitchell Drive ASP example, those area structure plans, our policy is 500 meters for those currently.
Okay, so I guess not speaking so much to the, if we were to like leave it at the 100 or even the 120 meter, but in, I guess depending on the district, do we feel that a lower referral area, like maybe perhaps in this, would make sure nearby properties are protected from like incompatible development and future development? Like, do we feel that if we were to lower that, that they would be protected, or do we feel that it puts it at a risk at all for future development? And it's just a question.
Is the question asked for administration?
Yeah, for administration.
In terms of a risk, not foreseeable. Typically, we don't see a lot of excitement for proposals beyond pretty close to the immediate surroundings of the site itself. So our expectation is that with dropping it down, we're not likely to see a change in response that would be detrimental in any major affecting capacity. But we can, as we're sorting it out, we can definitely take a further look and see if we're exploring this, should certain options be made at maybe a higher buffer than others. We're currently just in the introductory exploratory stages on these things. We may also see about working with communications about getting some advance noticing out so people are made aware of the change as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that would just be my concern, is that it's just not a one-all, that when you're looking at the different areas within the community, we're considering future development, right? And things that might be, like I said, incompatible development and things going forward, that long-term planning, right? And making sure that it aligns with our MDP and things like that. Also, like, you know, in areas where there's industrial, like for possible dangerous land use, contamination, things like that, like just, you know, keeping that, and I'm sure you will, I just wanted to make sure that when we are starting to look at this, that it's not just we're going to just drop it to 120 right across the board, right? That there's these considerations when we're going through it all.
And the other thing I'll add is what the policy establishes is the notification minimum. And so at any given time, administration can exceed that.
Okay.
Based upon if we
felt
feel
that.
that it's necessary to notify more people.
Yeah.
It's just this policy sets the baseline for what we are required to
Yeah.
notify.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Gmana, did you have another question?
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering, when I went through the examples, you know, there's some happened within the last few months, some probably before that. So for a fiscal year, how much are we spending on just mail outs, just for my understanding?
It's very much can fluctuate between the year, depending on the types of applications that we get in there. The last couple of years, we've been receiving about 60 applications with sort of not as heavy a focus on subdivisions, more so just smaller development applications. So last couple of years would probably be on the cheaper side. But again, if we start approaching sort of a more developer boom friendly period where they have larger plans, then that would be much, much larger in terms of the mail outs required there. For 2022, as an example there, we had, let me just double check my notes here. We had 19 applications where there was a change or a discretionary use that was to go out, 4 rezonings and 1 subdivision that all required this policy. That I would say would be on a lower side of things.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Just one more quick
Let's do that.
question. So out of those, so we did go through the rezoning for this and everything. So out of those 696 notices that were sent, how many responses did you get?
For the Terra Loma lands, I did not receive any responses where they wanted to present to council. I had 2 inquiries of just a clarification of what was being proposed. And once that clarification was given, they did not want to proceed any further.
Okay, and that's out of 696 that we sent out.
Plus the online notification.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Okay, so what we're doing is we're looking for a motion today to just accept the report as information. Is there a member of council who'd like to make this? Councillor Clark.
Yes, I move that council accept the report as information.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? Councillor Gmana?
Just a quick clarification. So 348 properties and we've sent 696 notices. Why is that?
Yes, so under the Municipal Government Act requirements, we have to send each property 2 notices, one in advance to say of any open houses or public hearings, when the date is and when comments need to be received by. And then after the fact, we need to send out a notification to let them know what the decision was on the file. So the number of notices will always be double the number of properties that we have to notify. Yes.
Thank you. There is a motion on the table, and I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried. And we're scheduled to be going into a closed session at 11 o'clock, but I think before we do, I'm going to jump to 9.5, just because Ms. Tiffin has to leave at noon. So I think we'll move to the retirement benefits for employees over age 71.
Good morning, and thank you for accommodating.
Absolutely.
I'm here today to give you a little bit of background regarding our retirement contributions. So currently, the town of Drayton Valley offers employees retirement contributions in form of an RSP and pension plan, which are registered plans. Legislatively, employees are not able to make contributions to a registered plan once they turn the age of 71. So that limits our employees from participating in our retirement package plan and receiving benefits from the town for retirement contributions. We've identified the need to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And unfortunately, when we limit our employees from participating in a plan, that limits, it's not equitable. So to remedy this, we can increase employees' pay for a percentage amount that would be equivalent to what they would receive in retirement and pension contributions. And just for your information knowledge, our current procedures and practices regarding retirement group benefits do not match the town of Drayton Valley policy. There'd also not really be a financial impact to make this change, as we already budget for all employees who participate in our benefits program for contributions to retirement plans. So today, administration is making a recommendation that town council approve additional salary contributions be provided to employees over the age of 71 in lieu of contributions made on behalf of the employee to a registered retirement plan. The amount of additional salary contributions would be equivalent to a percentage of gross regular salary employees receive for pension and retirement savings.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Councillor Clark?
Have we looked at, so TFSAs, they're considered registered. That still precludes them from falling under that sort of thing?
From what I understand, yes, employees could contribute to a TFSA. However, research that I've done with the people we manage as our retirement plan to set it up because of the number of people that would participate, it may not be able to happen as part of our group plan.
Any other questions? Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. Just wondering, what other municipalities do, to take care of something like this?
Sure. I did reach out, and it's kind of all over the board. Some municipalities offer what I've recommended today. Other municipalities just are like, oh, shoot, we'd never considered this. Other municipalities haven't run into the situation, so they haven't made a decision. Some have some plans that accommodate for that. So it is really all over the place at this point.
Also, if I may, what percentage of our workforce, facing this problem?
It's very, very small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Less than 2%. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion? Councillor Evans, you have a question?
So we don't have, and I don't even know if you're allowed to these days, a required retirement age. So people could, in theory, keep working for us pretty long in the tooth. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Sheriffs, did you have a question or were you wanting to make a motion? Okay, go ahead.
I have thought about this before actually, and I'm glad it came up. So I'd like to make a motion that the town council approve additional salary contributions be provided to employees over the age of 71 in lieu of contributions made on behalf of the employee to a registered retirement plan. The amount of additional salary contributions are to be equivalent to the percentage of gross regular salary employees receive for pension and retirement savings.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? Councillor Gumana?
Thank you. Just again, for my understanding, so you mentioned that there's no cost to the municipality, right? Can you go through that, why there's no cost to the municipality?
There's no additional costs, so this is already budgeted for. So when we go and budget for our benefits, we use a percentage basis, so it's already counted. We don't go individual by individual to account for things that they may or may not participate in. So it's already been considered in the budget. So there'd be no additional impact to the budget.
Okay, so what are we doing with that funds right now? Because it's sitting somewhere?
Yeah, it would be budgeted.
So
Right.
Yeah.
So for the last year, because this was not in place, it's still sitting there. Oh,
Yeah. So it's a case where expenses average out over the larger group. So we budget for all of our employees who qualify for benefits to have all the benefits. So we have enough in the budget. But this less than 2% doesn't receive the pension benefit. There would be other people who might require single dental benefits rather than family dental benefits. And that difference in cost is negligible, and it's viewed in the larger budget. So these small numbers, the actual dollars would simply go unspent in the budget, but over the course of the larger budget, they just get lost because they're small.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, there's a motion on the table. Excuse me, I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. And we will move into 9.7, which is our closed section under FOIP section 24(1)A. Is our member of council would like to move us, please? Councillor Clark, all in favor? That is carried at 11:10 a.m. And we will here. Okay, we will call the meeting back to order at 1:07 p.m. and we're going to be jumping back into our decision items, moving along the agenda to 9.4, early childhood development. Oh, that's right. Okay. Before we move on to our decision items, we did have a motion coming out of closed. I almost forgot. Thank you for that. Would you like to make that, please? Councillor Evans.
I will make the motion that cannabis stores will now be charged the same fee for a license as liquor stores,
As retail store.
retail stores. Does that work?
Does that work?
Yeah, so it's cannabis retail stores?
Cannabis retail stores will now be charged the same as any other retail store
Yeah.
for a
Did you get that?
business license.
Pam? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So there's a motion on the table for cannabis stores, business licenses to be charged the same as other retail, cannabis retail to be charged the same as other retails within the community. Is there any comment, question, or debate on the motion? You sure can comment. Go ahead.
We had discussed a rebate. Did we want to, if they've paid, are we going to?
Yeah, so if business licenses, the invoices have already gone out and they've been paid, we like to see that rebate given to the cannabis retailers that have already paid it. If they haven't, then a new issuance, is that the word I'm looking for? Of
A new
a new
invoice?
invoice, issuance of an invoice. It's like a tongue twister, be sent to them with this adjusted fee as well. So is the planning department, if we do the invoicing, or does
So
finance do the
I-
invoicing?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to capture that will be to say effective with the 2023 business license cycle, and then we'll make the adjustments.
Okay, perfect. Oh, no, that's not a motion. That was just a comment. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that wasn't part of the motion. He was making a
We
comment.
should add that, if we're going to make it effective before today, we should make sure that it's mentioned in the motion.
Oh, so be effective January 1st,
If
2023.
if you're okay with that addition, you can just accept that addition.
No, it's
No,
just in
because
addition
it
to your
came from
motion.
me, but you can hostile amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so it's just, you're adding that to your motion that it be effective with the 2023 business license.
Okay, so there's addition to the,
Yeah,
no,
both
it will be
the
effective
same
January
effect,
1st,
yeah.
2023, yeah. Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. Okay. Any other comment, question, or debate on the motion? None, then I'll ask all in favor. That is carried, and that was a confusing motion, but we'll continue to move on now to 9.4, early. Sorry? Yeah, we discussed that in closed, that there would be, yeah. Okay, Early Childhood Development Center Board Member Appointment. Good afternoon, Lola.
Good afternoon. So according to the Early Childhood Development Board bylaw, the board should consist of 5 committee at large members and 1 council member. The members shall be appointed by resolution for a 1, 2, or 3-year term. Board members Simon and Tess Coutu have submitted their resignation from the board, going back again to leaving 3 committee at large positions vacant. Although they were just approved in December, with a new addition to their family, they've decided to reorganize their commitments and have resigned from the board. We did receive a new application for the ECDC board. Jessica Starling has applied. She has children in the ECDC. She has had children there in care since 2019. She is a registered nurse. She has no preference for the number of years for the term. We think that she would be a good addition to the board. So the administration recommends that council appoint Jessica Starling for a 2-year term to the Early Childhood Development Center Board.
Thank you very much. Any questions for administration? None. Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion? Council Sheriffs?
I'd like to make a motion that the council appoint Jessica Starling for a 2-year term to the Early Childhood Development Center Board.
Thank you for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? None. All in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 9.6, Growth Services Strategic Action Plan for 2023 to 2025. Good afternoon, Luke. He is a member of the team, Rick. Yeah. It's good. We're happy to see you. Good afternoon. Go ahead if.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon to councillors. So I'm here today to talk about the Growth Services Strategic Action Plan 2023 to 2025. So this plan was previously submitted to council, and this encompasses both education and business, industry, and tourism. Approval of this plan is pivotal for us to be able to execute the expectations of council as far as strategic growth for business, education, et cetera, in the town. The strategy consists of approximately 11 pillars, 30 goals, 82 actions, 235 measures, and for a total estimate of about 4,800 hours. And this is partnership hours plus staffing hours. We are asking that the plan be approved so that we can begin the implementation of all the various actions to accomplish the goals. We have about 22 actions carded for delivery within this coming quarter of 2023. So we're asking that council approve the plan as has been presented, noting that this is a living document. So at any point in time, we can make changes, amendments, adjustments as required. It really is important that we get this approval because we have a number of events, big ones that we're planning for this year. I'll just give you an idea as to what some of these events are. We're looking at an annual regional breakfast or luncheon, a regional business breakfast and luncheon that will have a draw from neighboring communities. We're also looking at putting on later this year an annual trade, career, and job fair. And we want to really do something big for Small Business Week that would include things like seminars and workshops and speakers and so on. So this is just a sampling of some of the things that will be done later on in the year that we need to start planning for now. This is over and above other regular activities such as Mayor's recognition visits, our business visitation program, among other things. So with that, I return this to you, Your Worship, so we could have a decision.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So I'm sure everybody's had an opportunity to have a look at this. We've kind of reviewed it a few times. We've had it being presented as well at our Economic Development and Education Committee meetings. And I will open it up if anybody has any questions for Luke this afternoon. Go ahead, Councillor Sheriffs.
Hi, look, I'd
Hi.
just like to make a comment that ever since you started, you seem to be really busy and really on the ball and really trying to go and get things done and get the ball rolling. And I really appreciate that. It's actually, we can see what's being done. And I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sheriff. I also appreciate the kudos.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? I just wanted to make a comment that I do like how you commented on that this is a living document. There is a lot, I think you said 4,000.
900 hours.
4,900 hours. And there's a lot. I was looking through it again last night and it's a bit overwhelming because I think, wow, we've got a lot going on and a lot going to be happening. And so, my question in my mind was, what if in 10 months from now, we're like, well, we need to change this, or we're kind of going off track, or what our original intentions maybe were for something aren't the way that we planned, and we need to kind of steer in a different direction. So I like how you made the comment that this is a living document. We can change it. We can adjust it as we move along. And, it gives us that little bit of flexibility, which I think is important. And then I also think that, as we move along and we see the amount of time that it does take, we had a meeting last week with Alberta Innovates as well. And it was a good reminder, I think, to us as council to be reminded that things don't happen overnight, right? When we talked about investment or attraction or opportunities, and she said, years. So, I think it's good for us to see that, these are our goals, this is our path, but some of them are going to take a little bit longer, right? And if we don't get there, we might go about it a different way and we might change it, or some might fall off and, be readjusted as, budget time comes, or strategic planning and things like that. I guess my question before I wrap it up is, when it comes to strategic planning and things like that, are we looking at just touching base on a yearly kind of a yearly basis to kind of say, how are we tracking? Or what is your vision for that? Or are we quarterly, or how are we tracking as we go
So-
along?
Thank you for the observations, Your Worship. So there are two different things that we'll be doing here. One is you would have access to Strategy Point, which will allow you to track on an hourly basis if so required, or a minute-by-minute basis. So that's one. Secondly, we'll be writing up periodic reports. So every quarter, my desire is that we give you a kind of a summary of progress. So Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 for this year. Then at the end of the year, we amalgamate that and take a general look as where do we stand with respect to the overall vision based on the 3-year projection and also based on the vision. Now, remember as well that each of the goals and within the strategy that we have, they're all linked to Council's vision, and they're linked to the corporate strategic goals as well. So we have various methods. This is sort of like our backbone, the backbone of strategic growth. And I call it the central nervous system. We can call it that. So there are quarterly and there'll be an annual report. I intend to, for my area, to produce a comprehensive annual report, which is what I've done in the past as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
And I do want to add one more thing. Although this has no direct bearing on what we're discussing here today, yesterday we had our first Economic Development Committee meeting that Councillor Clark and Councillor Ballas attended. We had almost full attendance. I'm happy to say that we set the tone for regional collaboration, and our next committee meeting, which will be next month, we're going to be having it in Brazil County with them. So there was a very positive, there's a lot of enthusiasm. We created 2 subcommittees, one for tourism, and the other, Councillor Clark, you might have to help me remember what the other one was. Yeah. So we're on a good track. There's a lot of excitement.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Gamana, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree. Great work, great document here in front of us. But I just have the same question that I kind of asked last time around. Under the education, I can see the local residents, which is great, but I don't see any particular section for the opportunities that we are exploring for international students. I think that need to be included here, and explore. We have that vision and mission that we've worked for last few years, and I don't think we should be losing that in this strategic plan.
Well,
So my humble recommendation is that if we can embed that here as well, if not, we will lose that momentum.
Councillor Gamana, through your worship, thank you very much for those comments. Let me assure you those aren't humble comments. Those are very important comments. And I have memorized them and will ensure that if they're not addressed in here currently, they will be addressed.
Did you go back and look at when we talked about our goals and priorities and then the actions in order to get those, that it's there?
So the only location that it's mentioned is the training hub, right? That mentions about international, but that's the only piece that I see there. There's no other mention of how we break down or like what we've done with the other pieces, right? So, and that's where my concern.
I want to see some more detail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely,
Where how what is the progress that we've done so far, and where are we going with this as well, right? So, for me, as I've always mentioned, this is a economic development diversification opportunity for us, and we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure that we squeeze this to the point that it becomes very visible, and it will be addressed. And if it's not currently, I couldn't answer the question directly that it is or it isn't. I think it is, but it may be in here in a more disguised form. We'll remove the clothing and make sure you can see everything. Okay.
Thank you for that. Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion? I think that we are approving the plan today. Councillor Clark?
Okay, I move that council approve the Growth Services Strategic Action Plan as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion?
I was just wondering, as presented those as with those amendments. Sorry?
Which
Is-
amendments?
The one that we just discussed about the piece that we're going to include.
If you could elaborate, because it is in here several times, so I'm not quite sure what exactly more you would like to see in it. So are you just looking at the colored one, or are you going back and looking through the document? Because it is under actions. So I don't know what type of wording, if you're wanting to,
I'm looking at the colored pieces.
Okay, yeah,
where there's
'cause if you-
timelines and cost and owner there, right? So, I don't see, again, it might be,
it's in the document. It says, like, just in one, it says, like, develop partnerships with international student recruitment agencies and PSIs that'll assist in funding training opportunities for local students, international students, fundraise for the initiatives and continue to secure long-term resources for sustainability, to build out our long-term sustainability plan. All of these are falling under the international. That's just in one section. Just try to look here. So I'm not sure if what else additional, like for an amendment or an addition that you wanted?
what I'm mentioning is that, on the breakdown of things, right? Where it actually only have, let me go to there, create educational opportunities for local residents, right? That's one heading. And then, and that there's 2 pages of that or 3 pages of that. And then establish the CTC as Education and Training Hub Campus. I'm hoping that I'm looking at the same document here. And there it mentions about identifying niche programs that will create local resident education training needs through ongoing engagement, citizen, industry, and members, as well as there's a one location it mentions about international, right? That's all I see on that colored document about that piece.
Through your worship, what is the date of your document?
The one that I just opened for the agenda today.
It should be in the bottom left-hand corner of the document.
I'm sorry, can we bring it up there?
There it is, 28th of October. Is that the one you're looking at?
Yeah, 20th October. yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to apologize, but the copy that I have here is very fine print and I can't really read it clearly. So
No,
that's what I was whispering to Mr. Osmond a short while ago. Yeah. But I'm confident that we have references in here to it. What I commit to council is that I will make sure when I leave this room today that I can actually find it. And if it's not there, I will make sure that it is included. And remember, we also have an education committee meeting coming up. I think it's next week, I believe it is. So we will also have some discussion there as well. That's another opportunity to add more things if we need to. As I mentioned through your worship just now, this is a living document. So even if it's not articulated the exact way that you'd like to see it, there is the opportunity that we can do that at the next council meeting, in 2 weeks' time, because this is a living document and it will change on an ongoing basis. It's not static. Yeah. But I assure you that international students is a big focus for us.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table that council approve the growth services strategic action plan as presented. If there's no other comment, question, or debate, I will ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much for that. And we've already had our closed session. We'll move on to department
Thank you.
reports. Thank you. 10.1, Planning and Development Department reports. Ken, oh, there you are. Come on down.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I believe that other working group was for the luncheon, the regional luncheon conference thing to plan that. It was going to be a day event where we'd host some sort of a speaker, and I think it was a day for economic development with a luncheon. And so I think that's what they were. There was a planning committee for that. So I think that was what the other one was. Going on to business licenses, the topic, want to thank Elvira and her department we worked very closely in coordinating and streamlining the business license invoicing in December. So that went out smoothly. And so I guess we'll have to kind of send a few checks back, maybe, for some of the cannabis businesses. We've got some inquiries, which is encouraging on our lease lots on the airport already. A couple of them couple people have called already. And just looking to move from Eastern Canada to Drayton Valley with their airplane. So it's kind of interesting. Getting also the airport, we're getting an estimate or a work plan for a staged construction plan for servicing the electrical servicing for the airport so that we can go over a number of years. As you may recall in the budget, council approved part of the funding, not the entire funding. So we'll have to figure out how the best way to fit that over a few years, it looks like. The airport survey plans completed and presently being registered at Alberta Environment and Parks. Very exciting point now is we're getting to the part of the engagement part of the municipal development plan. So we'll be holding an advisory committee meeting very soon and just looking at the status of all of the background reports that we've been working on and collecting information on the past since summer of last year. As we speak, the building audit study is being completed. We've received about 5 of the 10 building reports. And of course, you heard earlier that the food cyclers. So we'll be bringing a report to council with a recommendation and outline of private and commercial with a full costing. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Any questions for Ken? No, just a comment. I think that that's really exciting that there's some interest in our airport hangars or leases. Remind me how many, I know that we went down significantly from the initial number. How many did we decide on?
I think we asked for.
Is it 4 or 6 or?
Well, we asked to do the entire new lots, which are I think about 20.
Yeah.
And so I think we got funding to do 4 or 5 of them.
So when you say that there's an interest, is it in the new ones or is it in the?
In the new, yeah,
in the new ones.
they want to lease a lot and build a
Okay.
hangar.
Okay, so are we feeling somewhat confident that this number may increase or you might be coming back to us in the?
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think it'll be about right.
Okay, perfect. And then also for the food cycler, you'll continue to have those conversations and then kind of get back to us of what that program can potentially look like and whether we want to be part of that funding again prior to May.
Yeah, we'll be putting together sort of our best recommendation based on the results and the interest in the community. I think was pretty high, and so there's you know taking the next step in the private, like maybe raising the private numbers and including some commercial applications and seeing. I'm not sure what the costing of those will be yet, but I'll be in discussions with Jessica to figure that out.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much for your report.
Okay.
We'll move on to 10.2, Municipal Services Department report. Abed.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Happy New Year and good afternoon. The report is attached, so I'll start briefly touching on the important things. In the parks, snow removal and maintenance of trails and ice rinks is ongoing. DB land mulching was completed 80%. The remaining 20% will be done in March. They will come back for fine mulching. DB land's concept design is underway and will be presented to council in March. Public Works, snow removal activities are ongoing. Priority 1 was done before holidays. Priority 2, 3, and 4 have been done recently. And the grading and of the gravel roads is also being done. 50th Avenue project rehabilitation RFP was issued on December 15th and is closing on January 20th. 5 consulting firms were sent the RFP, and we'll see what their proposals are, and we'll go from there. Working on the delivery plan of capital projects approved by the council. We have made a plan, and so we will be issuing RFPs and tenders in the coming weeks. Utilities, RFP for the wastewater treatment facility upgrade treatment technology is closing on January 20th. And the water treatment plant, our folks are doing day-to-day maintenance. They will be doing stainer maintenance. There are 2 stainers located in the water treatment plant. Each stainer maintenance takes a month. Then regular maintenance of the generator and the elevator, that was done. And 2022 year-end inventory checks are being completed at the water treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plant, the water testing is ongoing, and reporting to Alberta Environment. And because of some failed tests, they have asked us to increase the testing, so they will be doing it. During holidays, underground aeration leak aeration line was broken, and that was repaired, and the inventory checks are being done. Distribution system, there were lots of failures with the meters, and because of the cold snap, and they are being replaced and they have been ordered. There are shortage of meters, but anyways, we have got them and are being installed. Again, the inventory is year-end inventory is being done. Landfill, regular maintenance and operation is ongoing. Cell 4E will be tendered towards the end of January. And that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Abid? Councilor Sheriffs?
I have a question about the underground aeration line that broke and it needs to be repaired as it broke when the temperatures reached -25. Was it not built to withstand Alberta weather? Because I know it was just put in this summer, so it's fairly new, isn't it?
No, this one is a line which goes from the building, and there's and then it goes underground into the lagoons. So it appeared that it is old, and because of the freeze-thaw cycle, it was leaking, and the water was coming out near the wall of the water treatment plant, and that's what happened. It's a PVC pipe, and I think it's old, and once the treatment plant is going to be upgraded, we will replace at that time.
Okay, because I understand that there was some aeration being done in that area this year, and this wasn't part of.
This was not the part of it. This is the line which goes and connect with those lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Evans, did you have a question?
Yes. So the 50th Avenue project, we're issuing a request for proposals to various engineering firms, but it has already been tendered once.
That's right.
So that would require a design, et cetera, for it to be tendered, no?
Yes. So through the Madam Mayor, Councillor Evans, that tender was prepared a couple of years back, and it was tendered, brought to council. Council did not award it. And this was not the whole length. Now we are doing from 50th Street to Beckett Road. And that tender was from 43rd Street to 47th Street. So, and yeah, so we have, it's a revised scope of work. Otherwise, we could have gone to the same Associated Engineering and asked for that. And I initially thought for giving them an opportunity, but then I thought it's a scope change. We should give the other consultant the opportunity, maybe, otherwise they will not be happy because, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with that. I thought we were just re-engineering what we had already engineered for
No.
tender previously. So we'll just add on to the pieces that we have already. They'll tie into those.
They will look into that.
Yeah.
And we have done some stormwater reports, and we have given that so that they can review those and make sure that the ponding which was happening on 47th Street, that should not happen.
Yeah.
So if, with the lens of these reports, they will review it and then do the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are looking into those lines that cross there.
They will also look into that once the design starts.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And then at what point, or is this for the whole project? Or do we have another RFP going out after that?
So this is for the engineering company.
Yeah.
who hired that. Then the engineers will do the, surveys and design and prepare a tender package. Once the tender package is ready, we will tender it. And in April, there will be a tender
So
for the
we're
construction.
anticipating it will happen soon, like,
Soon, yeah.
yeah.
So we
okay.
have given a timeline. I can share that RFP with the council, what these consultants have to follow. The idea is we would like to have the construction started towards the 3rd week of May, and then get it done over the summer period.
Perfect. Yeah, that's, I think, was my question is, when I hear that, it just sounded like a long timeline. So I was just imagining spring, summer coming, and then I was wanting to see that there'd be another RFP going out and the project would be slated for this year still happening. So
Construction, yes.
if you could just, share what that timeline was
Timeline,
in the
yeah.
RFP for the engineer, that'd be wonderful. Did you have a question?
Yeah. One more.
One more. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I think you may be a little optimistic there.
I know. But
By the time you hear back from the engineers and then they start putting it all together, give you a package to put out to tender, you may be a little optimistic, but
I know.
anyway, we'll see.
We'll
I
see.
hope you prove me
I
wrong.
sure hope so too.
The tie-in
What,
that was supposed to happen last year and it's going to happen this year, the tie-in to our distribution system from our water treatment plant. Any update on that, or is anything happening? I know they've been modeling.
yeah, we had the meeting the other day about the capital projects planning. And it was mentioned that they are modeling and it will be done this year. That's my understanding. Hopefully, Shelley told me that they are still modeling and then it will be tendered this year.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is, got put back last year after we were told that all the engineering was done and it was ready to
Yeah.
go. And yeah, I think I'd strongly look at the quality of your engineers. If we're talking in a couple of months here and they are still modeling and we're not sure whether it's going to get done this year, I think I'd look at making a change at that point in time. It's been quite late
Ongoing,
here.
okay. I will make sure that this gets done.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. So did you have a question? Oh. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll continue moving on to 10.3, Community and Recreation Services Department. Hello again, Hans.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the rest of council. So just a couple of highlights in the report that you already see in your package. So for ECDC, the ECDC childcare fee increased this year with 3%. Because the cost, of course, go up, the expenses that was approved in the budget with council back in December. In late December, the province declared that they would subsidize the fees with 3%. That basically offsets that increase for the parents, and they will see that reflected on their invoices coming up. So that's great. The staff themselves, our educators in ECDC, will see about $2 increase per hour as well, as this, of course, is good news to try to maintain people in that work field and make sure that it's attainable to become part of it or at least stay in that work field. We need those workers. The phone booth, we try to keep still tabs on how much that's used. We incorporated those last year. The one at the Rotary House has seen already over 4,000 calls, and we see, of course, the usage down here at the, in front of the Civic Center as well. For the pool, we encourage everybody to follow on Facebook, parkvalleypool.dv. Just to keep yourself informed on the Park Valley Pool still being open. Now it's scheduled till January, say that correctly, January 22nd. Because there's still opportunity to go to the pool and enjoy swims over there. But we are anticipating, of course, our opening of the Ricochet Oil Corp Aquatic Center, and keep tabs on that on our town Facebook page with updates, because we are taking care of the final obstacles and anticipate announcements in the near future. For community services, the daytime shelter program opened up. That's great, of course, and the Humans Helping Humans took over the shelter pots operations. It's awesome to see this passionate members of the community coming together in groups that they take care of that together with us. Basically, they're partners that step up and take care. Family Day is February 20th. EBPR, that always takes care of the programming at that moment. They are in the midst of moving, so they will not do that this year. We're going to breach it with other programming on Family Day. It will look a little bit different, but we're working on that as a department. For instance, with free activities that we can invite families at least to come over and be active. The recreation department, we're planning a survey. We do that every couple of years to make sure that we keep a finger on how the community sees the future for recreation. We'll go over that with the rec committee tomorrow and then send that out. So that's the possibility then to provide more recommendations and for us to set out the future. But what's already there is wintertime, so come out, skate, toboggan. There's activities that you can do. It's not -40 anymore. A last minute addition for council, please keep your agendas open for March 7, 5 to 8 p.m. The RISE committee activity with Dr. Unger will take place then. So it was something that was planned for last year in November, but the rescheduling of that is for March 7th in the early evening with Dr. Unger.
You'll send out a tentative hold.
Yes, for sure. But I got that last minute and it was asked to say that. Thank you. And with that, any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions for Hans? Councilor Kamana.
Thank you. I thought I'll ask a question. Just wondering about the 3% increase, and then, so can you clarify this? So after the province changes the formula, that's going to change? Also, how much of a dollar figure are we looking at per family or per child?
So first of all,
ECDC.
yeah. So first of all, of course, with the cost increase, we went over that in the budget with council, and we were allowed to put a maximum of 3% increase on the fees. That happened. That went into the budget, and that happened. After that fact, the province came out with a last-minute announcement in December that they would start to compensate and give that as a subsidy to the families to compensate for that 3% increase. So that's why parents will see that our fees for the program increase with 3%, and then you get a 3% discount from the province as a subsidy. So the families will see that as a net zero increase, basically.
Perfect.
In dollar amount, maybe I'll look backwards, but it's about, yeah, I wouldn't say, but it's in dollars, but it's not much, but people will see that on their invoice to be basically compensating each other to zero.
Bless you.
Okay. And in the end, from last year's invoices to this year's invoices for a child, there shouldn't be much of a difference.
So the only difference that people will see is for the food programming that we have down here, and there's an administrative fee addition. So that they will see that on their invoice to be a little bit of an increase compared to last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just had a question in regards to the phone booth, 4,000 calls. Do we track like where the calls are going? What are the hours of the calls and what the number is or anything like that?
We do not track it actively, but we can, yes. We see a lot of the phone calls happen during the daytime when there's people want to have advice or need something to call when they have been visiting for services, the Rotary House. But we also see them in the evening when, let's say, there's kids utilizing the park, need a pickup from their parents. They even utilize the phone. So there's a variety of usage.
Okay. So you do see the time that it's happening and
That's correct. We can
okay.
see that as a time. Yeah.
Okay. No, it'd just be interesting to see kind of when the hot hours or when the phone's getting used, right? I haven't seen anybody in the phone, so I was just, not that they're not using the phone, I'm just curious as to when people are using it. When the hot time is in the middle of the night or there's a lineup at 2 a.m. Just be interesting to know. Okay, well, thank you very much for your report. We'll move on to Corporate Services and Finance Department report. Elvira.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And with the new year in finance, it's the most exciting time of the year because we get to do year end. So in finance, we're doing a lot of audit preparation, which includes all year end reconciliations, reasonabilities, variance analysis, grant reporting, and a host of other things that you probably aren't interested in. But it is a fair project. So it takes up a lot of our quarter one. And also what we're working on is tax e-billing. As you know, we passed that bylaw last year. So we're starting the advertisements on social media and an attachment in the utility bills, I believe, to just encourage people to sign up for e-billing for the tax and assessment notices this year. So in January, we're also really busy with answering questions regarding penalties because penalties get applied in January right at the beginning of the year. So we work through a lot of, there are some people that they say that they'd never got their notice or something like that. And then it comes in the year and we have to answer a lot of questions and help. And not only that, we do to work through a lot of payment plans with people that have gotten, fell behind on their taxes. So our tax department works with creating a plan to get them caught up. And so our department's really busy with that in January's usually. We also have just ongoing tax collection going on, getting our timing worked out for the next year's tax deadlines and such. And then for asset management, we're ongoing support for Ken as he takes the asset management even further. So a lot of the financial information that he needs, those types of information comes from us. So we meet with him regularly to make sure that he has all the information he needs. And in IT, in January, it tends to be really busy with catching up from the closures over Christmas. And so that's a lot of what our IT team has been working on. We also had some VPN issues. So Nathan's working with our VPN providers to make sure that we can get that back up and running, or if we can't get that back up and running, what an alternative is for that. He's also working on configuring new servers, getting those up and running, and then of course ordering new servers for this new year as well. And we also were fairly busy with, we were getting new printers this year and getting all the printers and everything installed at the new pool. And then some other things that are going on, we recently got a full-time position into the records FOIP position. And so we're working really hard at getting all our records up to date, like everything is recorded, and then working on continuing to digitize old records. And so that's what our team is doing these days. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Fantastic. Any questions for Elvira? Councillor Kamana?
Thank you. Just wondering about the security cameras for, yes, where are we at?
So, I mean, we're just starting the conversations with scouting out location and seeing what we need in order to have cameras in those locations in regards to access points. So that's where the project is right now, just at the beginning stages, unless, I mean, Tom is the project lead on that. That's pretty much where we're at right now. Yeah. So it is definitely, you know, the stocks have started, but as so far, that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Not a lot of questions. And so our last department report is communications. Jen?
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
And Happy New Year to everybody. I feel like we've kind of hit the new year running. There's been a lot of things that have been happening. We've been busy working with Hans to make sure that we're updating the public on where we're at with the pool and what's kind of led to some delays this far. And I expect that as we get closer to it, we'll have more and more updates going forward. Some of the bigger things that we've been working on is Council have seen the RCMP survey that I sent out just before and just after the holiday season. I'm happy to say that that is out today, and that will be ongoing for the next 4 weeks, and the data will be collected at the end of it, sent to the RCMP, and then they will come and make a presentation to Council about what the results of that was. Some of the items that I have for my corporate business plan upcoming this year were the community engagement strategies, website updates, and the municipal branding application on some of our facilities. We've started the process of getting those underway. I've signed contracts with the providers that are going to be working on our citizen budget and our engagement platform on our website. I'll be working with the department heads to make sure that we have the data gathered so that we can start building those platforms and getting them underway and working on the timelines for that. As Elvira had mentioned, we are putting out advertisements for tax e-billing and reminders about tax penalties, and of course, ongoing communications with Public Works, their snow removal activities, and making sure that everybody is hopefully paying attention to where the plows are going to be and moving their vehicles. And that's kind of largely it for me, if there's any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Been busy, definitely. Any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you
very much.
And I notice at the end of all of the reports, there's a recommendation to accept all the reports as information. Are we just looking for one motion that we can accept all of them, or do we need to accept them?
Just one motion to accept them all.
Okay, perfect. Is there a member of council that'd like to make a motion to accept the department reports as information? Councillor Evans?
I'll make the motion that we accept all the department reports for information.
Thank you very much. Any comment, question, or debate on that? Then I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. And before we move on to our council reports, I just want to give a huge shout out to Tom for your 30 years of service. Thank you so much for everything that you do in our community in 30 years. Wow, that's a long time to give to our community. We really appreciate it. And you're out there every day working hard. And I don't think my words can express how greatly we appreciate you and how excited we are for you. So I didn't see you on the department reports, but I wanted to ensure that we're giving a big shout out. Thank you. And yeah, just thanks for everything that you do. You are so welcome. Okay, we'll start with Councillor Kamana on our council reports.
Thank you. Yes, Happy New Year to everyone and to the community as well. Of course, it was the season of happiness and celebration, but it's all over. It was a little bit too short. We are back at it again. On the 10th of December, I had attended the Culture Cafe, and there were few of us there. It was nice to see good participation on the Culture Cafe as well. On the 21st, had the breakfast with the town staff at the CTC. It was good to connect with all of the staff. Also, on the 22nd, I had the opportunity to attend an AHS meeting with Director Janice Stewart. discuss about the CT scanner pilot project, how the facility can utilize the CT scanner more, as well as few other upcoming projects and what we should be, I guess, advocating with the points to improve our healthcare as well as hospital itself. Councillor Ballas was there as well. Other than that, I had the Jingle Ball, was fun. And then the town's Christmas party was a lot of fun as well. So, you know, and it's a new year, new hope, new beginning. So once again, I wish everyone a happy and fantastic new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Clark.
Yep. So yesterday I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting, focused on regional connectivity, tourism, sports tourism. Got an update from Lucy Getsu, the Alberta government, regarding the rural renewal stream. Talked about a regional career job fair they're going to put on, I think in June is when that's likely going to go. And then there's also some talk about a small business week, doing some things around that as well. Community Foundation, just wanted to highlight the Community Services Recovery Fund, $400 million allocated from the federal government. Those municipalities that either have a Red Cross, United Way, or what was the other one? Yeah, a Community Foundation got a certain amount of funds. Drayton Valley got $130,000, and it's going to be allocated through the Community Foundation. So that's exciting. And this is to do with things like COVID recovery and those sorts of things, helping nonprofit organizations around that. Had an ECDC strategy meeting, just talked about kind of the hopes and dreams of ECDC here in the next couple of years, and I guess what my role will be on that board, so that was good. Did the aquatic tour, that was fantastic to see the new facility and what that looked like, and excited to bring that online here, hopefully soon. And then lastly, just attended that photo with Humans Helping Humans photo op, celebrating their takeover of the pods.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Evans.
Well, I won't repeat much of what my fellow councillors have brought up, you know, a couple of planning meetings, economic development. I also attended the aquatics facility tour, and yeah, impressive piece of engineering there. I can't wait for the community to start taking advantage of that and enjoying it. It's a beautiful building, and kudos to everybody who's been involved in putting that together. It's a big project, and even though we've had a couple of glitches here and there, you got to expect that with a project that size. I think overall it's looking very well. Yeah, attended the Christmas party for the town, and that was a lot of fun. Hats off to Elvira and Carla for their job running the evening. I laughed my butt off myself. I thought it was very entertaining. And it's nice to see us bringing all our people together, especially at this time of year, and just having a few laughs and kind of decompressing a little bit. I guess that's about it. Oh, I had one HCC meeting that I missed, unfortunately. It was during that real cold spell, and we were down to one car out of our three. So anyway, I got the inside scoop on what happened, and another one coming up on Monday. So that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sheriffs.
So on January 5th, met with Yoya from Invest Alberta and Andrew Wichenko, and that was really, it really brought to light that we are wanting to expand Drayton Valley in areas of businesses and such, but it also made me at least realize that as ready as we thought we are, we might have a little bit more work to do before we shovel ready, and I'm looking forward to that. And then had a meeting with the REMAX people about potentially bringing in developers into Drayton Valley and advertising our land a little bit more. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's a great opportunity for us to continue this friendship. And once again, I had a tour of the aquatic facility, and it's a really impressive building. It really is. From what I hear, we are on budget and on time, which is really rare from what I hear. And I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you very much for that. For myself, yes, Happy New Year, everybody. It's hard to believe that we're already, I don't even know, going into 2 weeks into January. Time is flying by, and I think, as Jen said, we're just hit the ground running again in the new year. We were busy. It was nice to have some downtime over the holidays. I think everybody enjoyed just a little bit of quiet time and time away from the office, and maybe even time away from each other for some of us. It was nice, though. I did miss everybody, and I'm glad to be back at work, though. Yes, the Christmas party was a blast, so thank you very much for everybody that organized that and put that together. I've been hearing a lot of positive feedback when I've been out and about through the various departments, and every department just has so much to say about it. And it was just a hoot, and just everybody had so much fun. So looking forward to the next celebration and party that we get to do together for sure. Kind of going back into last year, we had a couple ad hoc meetings, education and economic development before the holidays. I attended a few businesses and had an opportunity to visit with them before Christmas. We also met with the county council as well, just to kind of have a off-the-cuff visit and just touch base and just to say Happy New Year's. And, we want to continue to work collaboratively together. And, when it comes to economic development initiatives and things like that, we want to be making sure we're partnering and things, of course, like recreation and things like that, that they're important, and that quality of life is still very important to all of our residents and to ourselves as well. We got to tour the aquatic facility, which everybody has already commented on. It's a beautiful facility, cannot wait. Everywhere I go, people are asking me, when is it going to open? And they're so excited, and they've, driven by and put their faces up against the glass and had a little peek in. So it was nice for them to have a little bit of a closer look online through Collins Post and through the Town's Post to see the video. So that was a great share for everybody. I attended the homeless forum yesterday, and it was nice. Everybody, I think, was still in a little bit of that turkey mode. Nobody was really alert or wanted to communicate or share very much. It was a very relaxed and low-key meeting, but it was nice that we're kicking it off still. We met with Andrew Bachenko and Alberta Invest. And just like Monica said too, looking really forward to, expanding the opportunities for our community. And like you said, we have a little bit of work ahead of us, and it's going to take a little longer than I think we anticipated. And I'm excited to get to work, and I'm excited to, to start to move some of these things forward. I think we have a great team when it comes to economic development, and I'm feeling confident that, we'll see some of these things come to fruition. So that's very exciting. We met with RE/MAX on Monday. I think that it was a good meeting. There was a lot of useful information that I didn't know prior to that. So it was nice to kind of hear some of those numbers and what's happening in the community with a little bit of that. And what kind of the next steps are for not only RE/MAX, but other realtors in the community, that we can be collaborating and partnering and ensuring that we're working together in the community, and just looking at what those needs are, for Drayton Valley and the area. We had the agreement signed with Humans Helping Humans, and we did a photo op with them yesterday. So excited that they're taking over this initiative, as well as the Warming Center, opened up before Christmas. So those two things are exciting to see in our community, and much needed, both the shelter pods and the warming center. And that is it for me. Just looking forward to everything that this year has to bring, and wishing everybody many blessings in the new year, and that I'm excited to work with the team and to see all the exciting things that are going to happen together with us all. So that is it for me. And I will now move on to our council items. Committee updates, does anybody have? I don't know how many committees that anybody's attended in the last week, but if there's any other committee updates or anything they forgot to say, now is your time. I know.
Just
one statement, yeah. So, yeah. I don't know if there was any roundtable discussions either that anybody had that they wanted to kind of throw out there. I know for me, down at the CTC on Friday night, we have a Healthcare Aid Academy class that is graduating, so that is very exciting. Woohoo! So there was going to be a celebration at 6 p.m., I believe. 6 p.m.? Yes. Okay, I'm just going to look in my phone to make sure that I've got the right time. So anybody that can attend, I encourage you. Yes, it is for 6 p.m. So we have some very exciting students that have graduated and are going to be working in the community. So this is very exciting for them. So that's 6 p.m. at the CTC on Friday night. If you can make it, swing by and say congratulations and big shout out to our students. Looking forward to the next stream of students that'll be starting here in the spring. And hopefully other programming will be starting as well. We'll have probably an update next week at our ad hoc meeting, if not the one after that. So that is pretty exciting. And then out of that meeting, I just wanted to ask, I said I would again, out of the REMAX meeting on Monday, if there was anybody that was interested in attending the housing forecast next week. There is still a ticket or two available for any council members that wanted to go to that. That's next Wednesday. I think we have a sustainability meeting that day. I thought we had council, but it's sustainability. Okay, just thought I'd put it out there. Otherwise, I think that's kind of all that's happening. Am I missing anything, Pam, that's happening here? We will have to decide. I know last year we did the mayor's coffee. That's something that I rotated through councilors every month. Something that I'd like to continue doing, but I want to switch it up a little bit this year. So if you have any ideas, even administration, let us know maybe in the next week or something, or council, of how we can mix it up a little bit this year to get out there. And I know that there's been a lot of positive feedback from people saying that they really appreciate us getting out and connecting with the community and making ourselves available. So I think that it's something that we should continue. And if you have any ideas, or just keep it the same. So let us know. And I think that about wraps it up. I don't think there's anything else. And I will now look for a member of council. I guess we don't have any information items to accept, so I was going to say to accept them, but I think I'll just adjourn the meeting at 2:10 p.m. That is it. Thank you, everyone.